Beneath the shadow of the great tree called Konoha, one clan has lived under suspicion for generations. Uchiha. Blood and fire. Loyal, yet never submissive. When trust is betrayed. When justice becomes nothing but empty words. Separation. Not born of hatred, but because the path is no longer shared. The Sharingan sees through every lie. The will of Uchiha does not bow to the Hokage. This is a story of choice, and the price paid for freedom. I am Uchiha, the division of Konoha. When a clan steps out of the shadows, Uchiha Naka no Jinja. What? In the gloomy, solemn secret chamber, Uchiha Yura stared wide-eyed, pointing only at his own nose, at the Uchiha clan elder who nodded to him, and at the indifferent expression of Fugaku, the Uchiha clan head. Clan leader, elder, initially, it was due to the Uchiha clan's arrogance. During my time at the Ninja Academy, because of Yuhi Kurenai's conflict with Sarutobi Isuma, I deeply realized my mistake. Uchiha Yoru's eyes widened in disbelief, as if to say, how could you possibly do something like that? Uchiha Fugaku remained silent, as if he hadn't heard anything, while the elder beside him cleared his throat softly, his face showing a serious expression, and said in a low voice, now that the Uchiha clan is about to relocate, almost no one in the Jonin village trusts the Uchiha. It was now the third day since Konoha encountered the Ninetales rebellion. The first day saw the funeral of the fourth Hokage and countless other ninjas. The second day, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, announced his return to power. On the third day, he decided to rebuild Konoha under the pretext of replanning the clan territories. Today, the clan had just announced that they were preparing to relocate. That's why, as Jonin, only Jonin are qualified to participate in battles against the Ninetales and have a chance to protect their lives. While Jonin suffer the most losses from being caught in the crossfire, naturally unaware that the Ninetales is controlled by the Sharingan. Upon hearing these words, Uchiha Yoru's face also showed a serious expression, but his gaze was directed towards Uchiha Shisui beside him, a scene that naturally caught everyone's attention. Uchiha Shisui lowered his head in embarrassment. He was only 13 years old at the time. Uchiha Yoru said resentfully, Shisui's age is just right. In an instant, Uchiha Shisui was utterly flustered, while the elder, seeing this, let out a deep sigh of anger. Yoru, your talent is undeniable. Shisui only had talent in cultivation, but you are different. Excellent. What do you mean by it's merely about innate talent in cultivation? Uchiha Shisui nodded repeatedly at these words, while Uchiha Yoru, seeing this, showed a somewhat troubled expression. The Grand Elder, seeing this, looked somewhat helpless, then shook his head and said, this mission is extremely difficult. After discussing it with the clan head, we will prepare to award you a clan level A rank mission. The reward is 1 million. A second ago, Uchiha Yorichi's face was full of awkwardness, but upon hearing about the $1 million reward, the look of difficulty instantly vanished without a trace. Instead, she displayed an expression of unwavering loyalty, solemnity, and reverence. She nodded solemnly and said, for the restoration of the Uchiha clan. For the village, clan head, elders, rest assured, Uchiha Yorichi will complete this mission. Quite impressive. One moment he was awkwardly dressed, the next he was acting so selflessly and righteously. Seeing Uchiha Shisui beside him, he felt even more embarrassed. Although it was all for the sake of amicable relations between the clan and the village, it still felt a little shameless. Seeing such shamelessness in front of him, with greed being embodied in the clan's motto, even Uchiha Fugaku, as the clan head, couldn't help but twitch his eyelids. If he didn't know this young man's background so well, he would have truly believed him. Uchiha Yoru, 14 years old this year, a Chunin, awakened a one-tamo Sharingan on the night of the Nine Tails, while Uchiha Shisui, who was standing beside him, already possessed a 3-tamo Sharingan, a genius. Although still a Chunin, his strength, enhanced by the Sharingan, had already reached the level of a Jonin. But even Uchiha Shisui admitted he was inferior in talent. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku looked at the bright and handsome young man before him and couldn't help but sigh. In this aspect of talent, Shisui was indeed inferior. Uchiha Yoru was seen wearing a pure white kimono and black trousers. His broad chest slightly revealed his captivating muscles, dark wristbands covered his forearms and extended to his hands, and a black rope belt cinched his waist, securing a straight ninja sword. Although only 14 years old, he was already 1.7 meters tall with a handsome, cool, and refined face. With this outfit, he truly exuded an imposing aura. At this moment, his attire was extremely similar to that of Sasuke in the Eagle team. Especially after seeing Uchiha Yoru's face and upright posture, the elder couldn't help but nod in admiration, saying, "Yoru, the Uchiha clan has reached a crucial moment. Although the third Hokage is in power, it's only to stabilize the turbulent situation. Once the situation stabilizes, a fifth Hokage will definitely be chosen, and right now, only the Sannin have the qualifications to compete for the fifth Hokage position. But right now, Tsunade's whereabouts are unknown, and Jiraiya is in another country carrying out a secret mission, unable to return for a year or even half a year. Now, only Orochimaru will become the future fifth Hokage. Whether our Uchiha clan can once again gain the Hokage's trust depends entirely on you." As he spoke, the old man's demeanor became even more solemn. Even Uchiha Fugaku beside him wore a serious expression. Seeing this, Uchiha Shisui's eyes showed a look of unwavering determination. For the sake of their clan and village's trust, they had to become a bridge. Seeing this, Uchiha Yoru nodded even more solemnly. "Clan head, elders, rest assured, I will do my utmost to approach Orochimaru-sama's Chunin disciple, Mitarashi Anko." Not bad. Now that the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen has reappeared, his immediate plan is to temporarily step down and stabilize the village as a transitional period. Once the turbulent situation stabilizes, he will abdicate. This is based on the original dialogue in the anime. Orochimaru was originally the fourth Hokage's reserve, and in the eyes of countless people, he was practically a sure bet to become the future fifth Hokage. Having just experienced the Ninetales Rebellion, almost no one in Konoha trusted the Uchiha clan. To regain their former status and restore trust, the Uchiha clan had no choice but to first mend their relationship with the future fifth Hokage. Anko is the perfect example of a breakthrough. If Uchiha clan members of the same age could approach Orochimaru's disciple, even if they weren't old enough, establishing a relationship beforehand could ease the tension. However, no one would have imagined that Orochimaru, the figure almost everyone had high expectations for, would betray and flee. Episode 586. After Orochimaru, the previous four Hokages of the Edo Tensei era, Minato was later called Orochimaru's teacher. But it is speculated that Orochimaru's betrayal and flee occurred after the Ninetales Rebellion. Uchiha Fugaku and the elder beside him exchanged glances. Although his age was a bit young, it was just the right age. More importantly, Uchiha Yoru was the most handsome in their clan at this age, and he had also awakened the Sharingan. Although it was a new awakening, his talent was at least quite good. Clan leader, elders, you all know this, Anko, as Lord Orochimaru's disciple, still needs some funding, Uchiha Yoru said with a slightly troubled expression. Seeing this scene, Fugaku and the elders' eyelids twitched. If they didn't know this guy's greedy nature, they might have actually believed it. Alright, I'll give you 200,000 taels first. The principle of if you want a horse to run, you must feed it well is timeless and unchanging. This elder stated it frankly, without any hesitation or lengthy explanation. Uchiha Yoru, upon hearing this, immediately broke into a smile. Greedy? He didn't want to be, but this system required spending money, and all his savings had been used up 3 days prior to the Ninetales night to buy the Sharingan. Without a decent budget, let alone dating, he'd be practically eating dirt. He frowned, feeling a bit of a headache about how to explain things to Yuhi Kurenai. After all, Yuhi Kurenai and Anko were best friends. Konoha. But engager chak Konoha Gianpi Ellen teacher chak Tine Tian Hai Thien Diet Yuthi Katon Thun CSUVN La Tiat Jikang Bien Thien Tai TNT Jate Rung Ni Chayan DGI Tien Kang. King La Kain Trong Then Hyphen Ba Kang Tran Kintrik Huchu Had MCCG BXT Hind VGT Thong. Kui Kang, CSUVN Che Luan Dung GT Hokage VN Chang Kang BN SP Ninja Hyson VVI MT Kaijo LN Ma KNT Thuk. Hinthi via MGI KNT Thuk Ba Tran Chin Kang Bui VN Konoha Jate Nyan Ba Kai Na Tran Thong Thien Sianch Niking La Kochet King Ben Hun Lan Ti. K Kang La GGI the Ba Ko the Thum Li Navi Zut SNCM Kwayan Nuyan Non Trung Yund. Ni La the CCC Ben Hun Man Nui Cha SD La Moan Tran Raji Ing Zem Hokage Ma Kang Kain G Tam CM Kwayan. Henthi Bui VN CSUVN Trong NT Sharingan. Y Kanaha Tic Uchiha Jiba Gigi Q Kang GGC Tanium, Katang Kang Lanang Lai Kanaha CNN Lay Lane Nia Kwai Hoch Lim LS2. Trok Tip Hem Uchiha Gugihan Kuviak Bean Gigi, Risha Trong Then Tam. Tic Uchiha MCCD Mnen Liat BXT MDN, Hang Kung Chiko the Baikut CC Nanju, Kang Kohen. CSUVN Trong MT Sheringan Law Rie King CCH. Tiko, Tic Uchiha Kong Kanaha Mouthan Dian Dian Hong Lai Kankaj Now Hio Ho Tan Trang Feng Hong Masai. Yoru, Angui Noija Tic Lam Sao Ko the Kind Then Lay Lane Neotin Neum. Konko Then MT Lane Nathan Thit Kwa Alen. Via Siran Naka No Jinja Uchiha Shisui SCC MT Arki Rang Kochit Loling. MT Man Nazem Uchiha Yoru Kanki King Siam Kai MT Phone. Trach Kang GGC that H the High Hawkage Hu Noi Tic Uchiha CCC Home. Ingui Noi Ingui Kang Loling Tic Uchiha. Anguk Lay Loling Then. Chithi Uchiha Yoru Gai Bian Ra MTBN Kauthon Than SCC Thi Dai LSE Ichu Noi. Shisui A. Kang Phi Loja Tic na the now kind then Lay Lane Nia Tinium. Mola the Nether Now Tinium Uchiha. Non Lai Uchiha Shisui Thine SCC MDMIT. LPP Tic Uchiha Yoru Thim LMBM. Hen Hang Phi the Adepe Gig Shisukan Kanko Ku Va NCT. Tran the Thijian Ham Via Na Y Vang Non Sin Trong and Mang Shisui Cho Siu Vian Turk Via. Kang Kang the Kind Via Na Hung Y Hawkage MT Fang. Bin Kang Kong Kang Trong Nyan Tac Hen Diang. Tic Uchiha Ba Kai Manga Q. Hai Kai Tam Hu Y Saratobi Nico. MT Kai Kik Vien La Kang Len Tinky Lua Chen Kind Bin Then Con Try Get Shit. Ingui Nuazim Davi Uchiha Biakti Diet Hu Kang Ko Thian LS. MD and Chin Luck Hu MD Na Tin Thine Ko VNG. Han Nia Shisui Kang Kang Ko Kanang SNMG Batain All. Chiko the Noiji Hawkage Long HOCM. HN Law YCSUVN Salko. Then GVVI Uchiha CN GG. LSNA MGIG Cho GGI the bomb theme BTHU YTIC Uchiha Trong Fat Tryon MDN Ben Then Non Tian. Uchiha Shisui Law YCSUVN Sauchim Rai Bahen Hoa. Hin T Uchiha Itachi LSNA VN Law MT Kai NCM Tigi T Phi Hai. Shisui A, MT Lane Naja Tic Niwag Gi Hugon Lai MT CNN Lagin. Ko the Lam Chingmin Trong CCHC Abanden. VN Bay Robin and La Lang La MT Then VN. Tic Uchiha Kut Nak Han Y DJ Han Then BN GG. Kang La Kan Muan Thi Kik Chu Han Then Giam Dao. Tic Uchiha Giham Q and Go Si Abanden Chotha Jim T. Then Kung HN La Non Hen. MT Lane Na Uchiha Yor Mang Theo DN Y Non MT Shisui Sao. Gai Bien Ra MTBN Baikut Hang Le Kan Cash Now Gigi On Dang DNP Chiko the CNN Natham Rang Hon Trong Bang Newt Hun Tung. MT Man Na LPPTIC Zem Uchiha Shisui Sang Est Hung Va Q and Go Tic Uchiha Jijin Q and Go Siaben Then Lua Chen Kut Nak DJ. Kang Filian La Hong Then Chingbin Trong CCHC Aben Then Sao. Non Lai Shisui Trong Goi MT Hein Hien Ra Hiven. Uchiha di tam trong lay la theme then, Quanayan. Kaine Uchiha Shisui HUGC H, Hog la Nui Wai Fang Dian Navien la MT Min Trung Kang. Kang Kogi Nalian la Trigi Sinlian Hung Wai MT Fang Now, Hu Lai Ting BGZ Ejong Site MT Fangam Epi. Non Hinine Uchiha Yoru Kang the Kang Siam then MT Ting. Uchiha GVVI to TIC Bin then Thien Tai BSI Dideng Vien la Kang Hung J, Kang. HN La Noi Uchiha Kwa MCC T10 Ben Then Thien Tai H Uchiha. Yoru, Angui Noiching Ta Di Jai Hin Ni YNGI. Hen LSE Ko Then Ko the He Kang Lay Lay Nia Tin Niam Chen Tao. LSE Ne Uchiha Shisui Trongoi MT LS Ra Hiven and MT. Ma Uchiha Yoru Ang Zang Lay La Nume Turtinia Ingay. Sao Kang LSE Ne MGI The Ne MT Ting. Quin Nyan MT Man Ne Trok Tip DNT Uchiha Shisui Tamo. Kanki Hiven Non Lai Hen. Uchiha Eurasiant Gigi Non MT 2 Vi Fat Hien Kang Kogi Sao. LSE Na MGI Nach Jing Theme Felan T. Shisui, Ingui Kwai Gi Fen, Ni La GT Con Waiko, T Nyan Uchiha SN Niu MT Fintin Nium, Hen Diang Shadi La San and Trong BXT K Gi Now Turk Then Ji Ang Zem Hawkage. Uchiha SN But Niu Them Tin Nium Buffin. Uchiha Yura Monoi Kain Shisui LS Ra MD Mit VF King Hayo. MT Man Nazem Hinam Theme LMBM, Quanayan A, Kaine Shisui Y Ninja Fang Dian Jit Zak La Thien Tai. Nang Y Fang Dian Chin Tro Quathuklian Lari Tinri MD. Hume nine kung king the trachen, rakt kwaka na non gigi than LPP than LSC na MGI niwid NCMA, kan ban kang ko meiji GGI gi, kung kang trach bun H kang ko niu navi kin gium. Chik you kan ban kang ko chuan non A. Dijika, vien kai ji noi san in BFTK ki now len lim ji angzem hokage sn so ji tam hokage ji non muan tit. The kick negi hoikame shisu BFT tri BFT dek hu dung tiji ka dian hio, ing hin kai na tan xng so, LPPTIC Uchiha di tam trong ls ra nqg chin thing. Quin nyan shi CNN kai kuk via tit, the in h now ko how can ngok ti chiang, hen lin kang tin, hen lsi ko Uchiha thang sdmt min. Hai kai si chik hong benengoi arja hea huba hensho lse ls sao, con ko the badi ab dang diet tic. Chithi Uchiha yor lse huthi di mt ting, shisui, ingui bit sat na trong logi ting sao. Mt kalmoid di lam Uchiha shisui tren mtls rothine ton long tongue, hen kang la cnn thunting li ting ti mt non chivi, hen the kung king siam non ggc kai kik ninja ki tic sao. LSE na MGI nach jing CNN thanoi, lam sawa sun king bit, kung shayan na kokwan HG. Uchiha sat na logi no hokage shapechin the k konaha bn cnt vng thin vn, the akayan Uchiha madara ykai, thuk via fi chik chin. Via sao bui vn yg kichong Uchiha tic non tufin giri badaji no hokage fadjek, kui kung, sat now badaji no hokage fira and within vn btju, kung bajiam cm trong t. Ko the Chertilio, K con la via sao ggi the bolan guy, vien ben hun non tam, lse na mgi hem via nati trong ngak diam thara. Tiko sao ko via trong la nation y kai tin thine sa spt jung dgi, nahang y nuon vien la tic Uchiha tang ji chi siang si siang ren tnt. Non lai Uchiha shisui cnn thunting li ting ti thine scc. Uchiha yorwan mt rahayu haigi hong lai thak en chi si fang hong sai ti. Hindi haigi via sai via noi. Shisuye, ji no hokage chin sach ingui kung bit, rakt kwak ti kai kia gcc the thk. Fong ba tic Uchiha kung hn law. Hindiang ingui cm thvvi ti cash the akng no hokage ti tang mechi kai ggsn no the now jigi tic Uchiha. Mt kaum ngui trok tip hai Uchiha shisui ls ra viev kin angi si. Hen teacher chakin ne kang cookie koi fang dian na ss tan, niheng hen lam so kung la Uchiha cn chuji. Ti nyan hio arki mt at giant, king ki nu mei ju, arch di arki rang we tam chu hen zungkit to alen. Halik la noi ji ting hen teacher chakin ne kang ko theo fang dian nagi koi chian ji zo ra. Siam non ji juicy Uchiha shisu dao yong we tam, bin cn Uchiha yoro kanki ls, ra dang togi qg lse ichu noi, shisui, ingui hongnan kai. GGI the ba hokage MCCD thea KNG no hokage T town. Nheng hen kung SNM muan lui rati. Hen ti danzo kung hai via katangter chak king G CIPT. Rakt kwakter chak MT orchimorji non lon ko hiven thea KNG ang zem hokage. MT kaunoi, ta kun kang noi GGI the ba hokage noizo. Nheng ta ko the kinangui ti MT kai kakakuzu zem. G tam chapchen trong LSE ko. La ko hei kangton niam TIC Uchiha. Con ko the h the hai fong ba Uchiha chin sats, then la gt ha ko the kang ko thea kan. Then la noi nung li na con ko chit kind chu sui nu mei. Trong li tam them kai ko chit fin cm kang tan hin the jit nyanum sai ra umti kai ji ang zem hokage. Trong na mt ter chak kolian kang hang janik ti. The kick na Uchiha shisui inge chu len non li so hen vin lnmt tugi hen tic chi non. Ma Uchiha yorithi that sao li lon hin vi. AGMT NQGT Tenoi, Shisui Nguyen Tam Sai, Sanantan Heng Labet, Tuya Jikenko, MT Kai GUVI Uchiha Kothan Kin, Rakt Kwa Kang Fi La The Keiko. Vien La GCPG no Hokage The Keiko. The Keiko Chin La Uchiha Madarafan SS Kain Kang Bao Lao. Theo Sao Jin Hokage Bin Kwe GGI, Nguyen Noi G no Hokage Kang Kiang Kalakai. VNVGGZ Xing La The KGCC The Kang Kwa Hangchit Now. Rekt kwak vilian tang hum vvitic Uchiha jian tip hi chijin hokage. Ggi the bole la kai kia mt hoen the kkn neum. Rekt kwak the h the hai kung kenko lambao lalian trio. Ha ko the kenko fn hai jung. Hang sanan vao lse ko vien la theunian. Vien vi kung king chuhan fn hai jung kung la bien yuen thong. Ang ggc li na sao Uchiha Shisui trong long cheng bit ti sao ls ra mttin nam. MCCD hengi muan fin bak kaiji, hanging hen tang lei ji ang zem vien luan la ai. Hu sn king gvvi Uchiha kothan kintha, lpptic tran mtls, ra dang tagi qg. Hung va, mcc cater chakia hung he kan, nang the na spp turk then lech sp, bun h to cnn kung tang lei ji ang zem hokage jet hlian ggc. Non-lai Uchiha Shisui Tring Hong T Dang Tagi Qg Zhung, Som Uchiha Di Tam Trong Lei La Qg Lan. Terchak Choingui K Long Liu Lei MT Kaiji Tam Hokage MT Won Githia KNG No Fomber Uchiha and Tung, Lei Nam Ra Tang Lei Ji Ang Zem Hokage MGI Hyven. Hen LSE Ko Kiingui Fat Hien Kenko Ji Ang Zem, GGI The Ba MT Muk Chim Hot Lai Quian Li Kang Boon Te LSE. Gihan Katha, Hen LPPTIC Komayang Chim Rai Kaulan, Uchiha Yoro Kang La Alas Ratamu Dang Togi Qji, Kan Kohan Y, Hen LSE Kohan Lian Kang Tin Chisui Kan Ko the Diap Dang Ba Taino. HT Jung Hoigi MT Kiba Geo Jung, Terchak MT Non Kang Ra Kai GT, Han Kan CNN Hin Thim Thong Tiki Achit NGC, Kan Kaine HT Jung SNM MT Chitni MGM. Thum Kai Trong then Laji the Cia Trigi. Hen LSE Co. HH. The Jika, Ingui Noi or Chimarji non la MT Kai Dian Gga. LSE Ne Uchiha Shisui Archti Arki Rangji Sa Vau Hen Henzai Deng Hon Vien Lim Jibin Trong. Hum 9 Kung Kang Fi La Mo Shisui Kanko HUGC. Malat AI Kung SN Kangi T or Chimaru SN Fin Bua Chitran. Hun Niaterchak MT Tong Bien Then Ting Hai Alen Chin Lo or Chimaru. Ja sti cha CNN BNC MT Kiban Hun Lei. Hen LSE Ko Chin La GCCG Angzem. Non Lai Uchiha Shisui MDGCC Tang Lei Thine SCC. Ben CN Uchiha Yoro Kung VFT Fiep. Qji Tagina Honoi. Angnoi Orochimarji Non MCCD Kochit Lenkuk. Thum Kai Kine Gi Won Kang the Kudu. Hang Tuyet Ji La MT Kai Gi Hang Jatin Niame. Rekt Kwak LSE Chun Hang La GT Gi Du Bae. Ki Hanoi LSE HUGT Hokage Gi Du Buthe. Trong Ne MT Uchiha Shisui LS Ra Dang Tagi QG Kin Hunji GT Hunoi Kang T MCCD Orchimar Ji Non Y Tren Chin Trong Tang Ji Lenkik. Hen K La Than La Hokage at Hun Kang the Thiu Kuk Quite A. The Kik Ne Y Trong MT Uchiha Shisui Ko the Bratian Shen Hokage Hu La Thea Kan HEHU Y Kaigi. Orochimaru Ji Ting Y Tren Chin Trong Chahai Ninja Di Quan Kor Quite NCCD to Then Hun Ti Thong, Han Kun Thing GGC Ting Trang Thing Li, K La Q Hokage King the Thiu Kuk Quite. Chak Chak Bin Si An Uchiha Yuru Hu LS Ra Dang Tagi QG. Ingwin Han Koi La that SN Nal BPA, Non TV and La Y Trong HCC Chuhan Kang at Hokage King Gahan GC, Hu SNT M Chen Nal BP. BFT Kwaki Ingui Sao Ne Non Han Orochimaru Fan Boachi Truntha. Chak Chak. Gihan K. Uchiha Yorulian Kang Kimanji. Hen LSE Koshusi Biatan Hun Archti GCC SCC. Host. Uchiha Yoru. Chakra Level. Shannon. Chakra Attributes. Fire Leave 3 Lightning Leave 3 Gold Coins 3W. After parting ways with Shisui, Uchiha Yoru headed towards the village, silently shaking his head and sighing as he gazed at the images only he could see in his mind. The Golden Finger is a purely gold engraved system, only accepting gold. He painstakingly worked for so many years, only managing to accumulate enough gold coins last month. And even specifically waited until the Ninetales night to engrave the gold and awaken the Sharingan. After all, you can't just wake up out of nowhere, can you? The Ninetales night was perfectly reasonable. 1 Sharingan, 500,000 gold coins. Looking at his own Sharingan, which he had exchanged through a single Sharingan, Uchiha Yoru immediately looked distressed. Damn it, his talent was too limited. He had been to the battlefield, he had experienced life and death, but this Sharingan just wouldn't awaken. Luckily, he was from the Uchiha clan, so he naturally didn't need to exchange for Uchiha bloodline, which was great. The prerequisite for exchanging bloodlines was that there had to be a corresponding bloodline. After having the bloodline, 1 Mangekyo Sharingan cost 500,000 gold coins. To Magatama Sharingan doubled it to 1 million. And 3 Mangekyo Sharingan directly skyrocketed to 10 million. 100 million. Mangekyo remained silent. Anything she said would only bring tears to her eyes. Looking at the exchange rate, Uchiha Yoru couldn't help but twitch his eyelids. Using the shinobi world's gold exchange rate of 10 to 1, he would need to earn at least 10 or more suns to get enough Mangekyo Sharingan. Right now, his goal was to first achieve a small objective. In a solitary courtyard, Yuhi Kurenai, dressed entirely in black ninja attire, her long, slender legs encased in fishnet stockings, her agate-colored eyes filled with a complex expression, gazed at Uchiha Yoru, who seemed to have been waiting for her. Yoru, I heard you've had your eyes opened. Congratulations! Awakening the Sharingan truly makes one an elite Uchiha, while not having their vision fully awakened represents a stark contrast in status. Seeing Yuhi Kurenai's faintly sorrowful expression as she offered her congratulations, Uchiha Yoru scratched his head awkwardly. Kurenai, please restrain your grief. One is a congratulatory message, the other is one expressing grief. Yuhi Shinku still sacrificed himself, even though the final flap of his butterfly wings didn't change anything. Yes, Kurenai, this is the shuriken technique you need. As for the Uchiha clan's use of some of their techniques, he felt no shame whatsoever. After all, other major clans also possess similar skills, and besides, this wasn't a top secret of the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha shuriken technique is unparalleled in the ninja world, but this is based on the Sharingan. Without the Sharingan, it can only be described as not bad. Seeing the other party's audacious act of stealing the Uchiha clan's shuriken technique scroll, Yuhi Kurenai was stunned. Looking up at her somewhat embarrassed classmate, a strange feeling seemed to well up within her. But the next moment, the other party's words instantly made that strange feeling in her heart disappear without a trace, leaving only resentment. Kurenai, you know this is the risk I'm taking of being punished by my family, you understand. Seeing Uchiha Yoru rubbing his thumb, middle finger, and index finger together in a demanding gesture, Yuhi Kurenai gritted her teeth in frustration. How much money do you want this time? Greedy for money. This is exactly the label Uchiha Yoru's classmates gave him. And what's more, he's a money-hungry scoundrel, completely lacking any aristocratic demeanor. Seeing Yuhi Kurenai talking about serious matters, Uchiha, who had been interested yesterday, immediately said, Kurenai, although we are classmates. Because of the saying siblings should clearly settle accounts, initially, it was for you, and this time too. The woman kept rambling on about her accounting records, while Yuhi Kurenai remained completely silent, even gritting her teeth in frustration. However, this argument actually dispelled the faint sadness in the room. Shut up, Yoru. Yuhi Kurenai felt her head spinning. Facing this man, who was clearly extremely handsome on the outside, but was actually a money grubber, she had been completely fooled by him back in school. As a result, for many years, he had swindled a significant amount of her allowance, under the guise of being her scapegoat. At first, she was young and naive, but she really didn't need this person who was shielding her from arrows, and who had completely swindled her out of her allowance for so many years. Feeling a little angry, Yuhi Kurenai immediately stood up, went back to her room for a while, and when she came out, she directly threw a scroll from her hand. At 3 o'clock, looking at the scroll in his palm, Uchiha Yoru immediately showed a look of suspicion, only to see the word sword written on the scroll. My father renovated Konoha's swordsmanship tradition, and I think that's enough to cover the costs. Without showing any enthusiasm, Yuhi Kurenai snorted coldly, glaring back at the other party. Immediately, Uchiha Yoru broke into a smile. This was a great advantage. Yuhi Shinku, an elite jonin of Konoha, although famous for his genjutsu, also possesses quite good swordsmanship. Otherwise, he wouldn't always carry a large Japanese-style long sword on his back. This time, he got a great deal. Seeing the scroll in his hands, Uchiha Yoru immediately laughed and put it into his pouch, a sight that made Yuhi Kurenai burst into laughter. It's no wonder it's her boyfriend's money. The two of them are practically friends, not quite lovers, after all these years. Uchiha Yoru, however, rolled his eyes and muttered to himself, there isn't a single idiot among ninjas. After all, what ninjas are best at is analysis, of course, with some exceptions, such as the protagonist who uses cheats. Female ninjas are even rarer, and Yuhi Kurenai, being the calm and composed type, is not a simple existence. This time, he clearly got a great advantage. Thinking this, Uchiha Yoru immediately put on a serious expression. Kurenai, you know that with the Ninetales Rebellion, we Uchiha are already in a precarious situation. While this shield may not be enough, you can still use this opportunity. Once someone investigates your contact with the Uchiha, then you're finished. Before Uchiha could finish speaking, Yui Kurenai coldly retorted, "Just say that you, this scoundrel, tricked me out of my allowance from the Ninja Academy, and eventually even stole my father's swordsmanship scrolls. How about that?" Seeing Yui Kurenai interrupt and reply, Uchiha Yoru was initially stunned, then a smile appeared on his face. "Kurenai, it has to be you, huh? But you've made me suffer so much, you'll have to pay extra." With a screech of brakes, a sofa cushion was violently thrown, which Uchiha Yoru quickly caught. He saw Yui Kurenai, enraged by the other party's shamelessness, gnashing her teeth and glaring with her beautiful ruby eyes. "Uchiha Yoru!" Yui Kurenai let out a loud cry, and Uchiha Knight Wolf rushed out of the room, looking like a cheating man caught red-handed. "Kurenai, hey, let's take things slowly." Struggling to escape, Uchiha Yoru hastily tried to hide, but upon seeing Yui Kurenai no longer in that gloomy, deathly state, a slow smile formed on his lips. Yui Kurenai, noticing the slight smile on the other person's lips, felt her gloomy, deathly heart suddenly fill with life, and she glared at the other person disapprovingly. "Uchiha Yoru, I became a chunin a year earlier than you." In the original Yui Kurenai manga, the information is very clear. She became a genin at age 9 and a chunin at age 13. This hasn't changed, but the exact time she became a jonin isn't clearly defined. However, the conversations between chunin and jonin during the chunin exam in the original manga can be deduced. Yui Kurenai only became a jonin shortly after the storyline began, and now she is 14 years old. The storyline has been in progress for approximately 12 years, meaning it took Yui Kurenai at least 12 years to reach jonin rank, around the age of 26. Ultimately, what ninjas are best at is intelligence analysis. Having known each other for so many years, the two of them perfectly synchronized their performance of a manipulative breakup scene. During this sensitive period, getting too involved with the Uchiha was not good, especially since Yui Kurenai, who had lost her father's protection, was merely a chunin. Although it was only a minor inconvenience, it was clear that neither of them wanted to be burdened by it. Watching his retreating figure, Yui Kurenai couldn't help but sigh deeply. "You really are a heartless boyfriend." Returning to her room and looking at the photo of her and her father together, Yui Kurenai revealed a happy smile and murmured, "Father, your daughter will not disappoint you. I will definitely become an elite jonin of Konoha." At this moment, the sorrow in Yui Kurenai's eyes gradually transformed into a fighting spirit. She couldn't let her father down. She was determined to become the jonin daughter he had always been so proud of. A hazy drizzle fell, and as soon as I stepped out, I saw Uchiha Shisui in the distance. It was clear he had been waiting for some time. But Uchiha Yoru, acting as if nothing had happened, stepped forward, shrugged casually, and said, "What kind of matter would require the intervention of our genius Shisui?" The two appeared in the woods. Uchiha Shisui, upon hearing this, paid no attention, instead revealing a smile as he slowly took a scroll from his satchel and handed it over. "Yes, elder brother, this is the ninjutsu technique that the elder has bestowed upon you, and also the funds you need. Tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, the entire village will gather at the village gate." After reporting the intelligence about the mission, Uchiha Yoru gently shook his head and sighed. He could understand the Uchiha clan's impatience, but unfortunately, this gamble was definitely a futile effort. After discussing the main business, Uchiha Shisui's eyes became somewhat serious as he said in a low voice, "Brother, once you've finished dealing with your matter, at the very least, for now, you shouldn't provoke her, otherwise it will hurt her." Shisui's meaning was very clear. The Uchiha clan was already in a precarious situation, and associating with other commoner ninjas would only invite trouble and might even bring them negative consequences. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Night God gave Shisui a strange look, then teased him, "Shisui, you'll understand when you have a girlfriend. That's quite something." Hearing such shameless words, Uchiha Shisui was left speechless. Looking at Yoru, who was only a year older than him, he simply couldn't understand. The two transformed into identical fleas and returned to the Uchiha clan. At this time, Konoha had just gone through the Ninetales rampage and was in a state of disarray, needing to rebuild. While all the ninjas were busy working themselves to the bone, the Uchiha clan ninjas were almost all preparing for relocation. Upon returning to their clan's temporary headquarters, the Uchiha clan, particularly the police department, were implicated. And it was precisely because of this that Konoha used this as an excuse to force the Uchiha to relocate. Flipping through the scroll, besides the to-be-rank ninjutsu techniques, there was also Sharingan training, control experience, and a few other things to pay attention to. While it was certainly eye-opening, training was still necessary. Just like with other 3-tomo Sharingan users, there are still variations in the strength of their ocular power. Looking at the various Sharingan enhancement methods, Uchiha Yoro immediately shook his head and chuckled. Although this system was a bit rigid, it had to be said that the service was still relatively thorough. After exchanging for one Sharingan, he also received countless experience points and skills, directly allowing his body to perfectly adapt and even reach the limit of a single tomo. He immediately said that the direct exchange system was top-notch, truly living up to its reputation of being a product of equal value for money. However, when he flipped to the last rank ninjutsu, his pupils instantly contracted. I didn't expect it to be this kind of jutsu. Looking at the familiar jutsu, Uchiha Yoro shook his head and sighed, saying, well, the Uchiha clan is, after all, the most deserving noble clan in Konoha. Kakashi wanting to preserve the Sharingan requires not only a relationship with the 4th Hokage, but also a significant effort to save face. It's impossible for the Uchiha clan to lower their stance just because you're the 4th Hokage. That's not enough. So Kakashi brought out this jutsu, which he considered a way to barely cope with the situation. No wonder in the original story, when Kakashi was teaching Sasuke, the 3rd Hokage and the others didn't stop him. It turns out the reason was here. The Rank Chidori Jutsu, a technique Kakashi created himself and became famous for, is also a jutsu that can be unleashed to its fullest potential when combined with the Sharingan. Not only is it relatively rare among the Uchiha clan, but even within Konoha, lightning attribute jutsu is considered quite uncommon, which is why this jutsu has been kept hidden for so long. In his eyes, a jade-like glint appeared, and he focused intently on memorizing all the information in this scroll. He activated his Sharingan not for the sake of appearances. After all, he was alone in a tent, so what was the point of talking about attire? The Uchiha clan, in this respect, cherishes their ninjutsu scrolls, which naturally contain sealing techniques. Only those observing with the Sharingan can accurately discern the contents. While ordinary eyes can also see them, the content will differ slightly, with crucial parts changing. At that point, only those who practice them will know, and there will certainly be no good outcome. At 10 o'clock on Monday morning, a considerable number of people had already gathered outside the main gate of Konoha. Teams of ninja assembled and then vanished like fleas know. They turned into shadows and disappeared. Yes, boss, let's go. We'll discuss the mission along the way. When Uchiha's figure appeared, the Jonin and Chunin ninjas immediately showed no reaction, but the Jonin clearly felt an unseen aloofness. This time, the Uchiha clan had quite a few members, bringing along about 8 of them, and the leader was clearly the Uchiha genius Shisui. With Shisui as the captain, leading the team at the very front and keeping a distance from those behind him, he said, Senior, we're going to the border of the land of the sea this time, where Lord Orochimaru is stationed. Taking the scroll, Uchiha Yoro narrowed his eyes and read its contents before nodding slightly. So that's it, we can be considered the ones sending the signal, right? The Nine-Tails rebellion caused heavy losses to Konoha. Even the 4th Hokage was killed in action. One can imagine how serious the situation was, and the borders began to waver. This is why the 3rd Hokage was able to regain power so smoothly. Only Sarutobi Hiruzen could stabilize the current situation in the shortest time. After 3 days, the Uchiha's attitude had basically settled. Move. Prepare. This was an undeniable fact, and the Uchiha clan also had its own methods of response. That's essentially sending out a signal of goodwill. Similarly, the Hokage system also sends out its own signal. After all, if you make me move my clan's territory, I'll move. The current situation is turbulent. The Uchiha need to regain trust, and the village needs the Uchiha's strength. And they were the first Uchiha to send the signal, heading to the border to take up a mission. Ultimately, because of a lack of trust, all the Uchiha elites were kept in the village. Haha, I'm afraid Sarutobi Hiruzen won't be able to sleep peacefully tonight. In this particular period, both sides began to show their goodwill. The Uchiha began to send out their forces to protect Konoha, to prove themselves and to regain trust. Similarly, in the eyes of the Uchiha, Konoha also released goodwill. You are good. I am good. Everyone is good. Shisui, this mission is to go to the border. Lord Orochimaru is truly amazing, stationed on the front lines, almost simultaneously guarding against the Hidden Cloud Village and the Hidden Mist Village in the Land of Lightning. Uchiha Yoru narrowed his eyes and smiled as he spoke, while Uchiha Shisui's expression was clearly not bad. Probably because the relationship between the clan and the village had at least stopped deteriorating, and the signals of goodwill from both sides gave him hope, making him feel even more relieved. Shisui was clearly in a very good mood. He smiled and nodded at Uchiha Yoru, saying, Lord Orochimaru is stationed on the front lines, guarding against the Land of Lightning and the Land of Water. We Uchiha are here to support the front lines. With such a major event happening in Konoha, and the fourth Hokage dead, it would be a miracle if other villages didn't take advantage of the chaos to loot. From the original story, it can be inferred that although Konoha didn't experience any major wars after the Ninetales attack, smaller conflicts and even secret investigations continued to exist. In the original story, Shisui fought alongside the Hidden Mist Village ninjas on the battlefield and also participated in peace talks with the Cloud Village ninjas of the Lightning Country, leading to the Hyruga clan incident. It can be inferred that this was a strategic maneuver between nations. The golden sand stretched out, and countless colorful seashells shimmered in the sunlight, lying peacefully there. With his feet treading on the soft sand, Uchiha Yoru couldn't help but squint and smile at the beautiful beach. This place isn't far from the Land of the Sea, which has appeared in anime before. In the flashback, Orochimaru had a human experimentation base in the Land of Sea, and Mitarashi Anko also placed the curse mark in this very Land of Sea. 169 episodes, it's no wonder Orochimaru wanted to set up his experimental base in the Land of the Sea. It turns out Orochimaru was stationed there at the border at that time. Yes, boss, we've arrived. In the distance is Lord Orochimaru's encampment. As the captain of the 8 geniuses of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Shisui's face lit up with a smile as he looked towards the distant encampment. At this moment, numerous observation towers were clearly visible along the coastline, and many more were hidden within the dense forest. As the group headed towards the encampment, they naturally encountered numerous hidden guard posts along the way. However, throughout the journey, Uchiha Shisui silently exchanged hand signals and coded messages with the guards stationed there. Finally, the 8 of them smoothly entered the encampment. The encampment seemed somewhat disorganized, but Uchiha Yoru was already used to it. After all, ninjas weren't armies, especially in this world where ninja techniques were controlled. This kind of disorganized encampment actually allowed each ninja to maximize their advantages. Yes, big brother, you and I will go and report to Lord Orochimaru. The rest of you prepare to set up camp. Yes. On the battlefield, becoming a ninja meant simply being a tool for carrying out missions. Each Uchiha ninja responded in a low, serious tone. Along the way, however, they were somewhat suspicious of Uchiha Yoru, the genius of their clan and whom they called their elder brother. Some even felt a little dissatisfied. Uchiha Shisui was the pride of their clan. At nearly 13 years old, he was already a jonin, only a year behind Kakashi. More importantly, Shisui possessed the 3-Tomo Sharingan. Uchiha Yoru had only recently awakened his Sharingan, and it was only a 1-Tomo Sharingan at that, yet he received such a special honor. There's no doubt it's unbelievable. Uchiha Yoru and Uchiha Shisui followed the guiding ninja towards the center of the camp. Along the way, Uchiha Yoru observed the situation in the camp and muttered to himself. As expected, no one is a fool. The front lines have begun to receive more ninjas. Along his journey, he's seen many newly erected tents, clearly indicating they've arrived within the last day or two, or even today. These are all ninjas who have withdrawn from other areas. Lord Orochimaru is inside. After the ninja guide led them to their destination, he respectfully nodded, gestured for them to leave, and then, with a single leap, transformed into a black dot and disappeared. Yes, boss, let's go inside. At this moment, although Uchiha Shisui's expression was calm, the excitement in his eyes was undeniable. After all, in his heart, this was the future 5th Hokage, and he was the one who had come to carry the mission of the Uchiha clan. Meanwhile, Uchiha Yoru was secretly observing the surroundings. Indeed, the name Orochimaru was not mispronounced. This encampment was set up in a dark place, perfectly suited to his personality. There was no one to report it, or perhaps the five senses ninja were too powerful. When the ninjas arrived here just now, no one stopped them, which proves that Orochimaru is inside and also had time to summon them. Despite saying that, when they reached the slightly larger outer tent, Uchiha Yoru and Uchiha Shisui both stopped, and in unison they said, "Uchiha, please register." This isn't about family power or etiquette, but about the customs and traditions of this world. Enter! A hoarse yet intensely magnetic voice sent shivers down people's spines as it echoed through the air. Uchiha Shisui took a deep breath, clearly shouldering a heavy responsibility, while Uchiha Yoru muttered to herself, "I'll finally get to see the real person behind this voice today." Upon entering this tent, it was clear that snakes thrive in dark places, and even the inside of the tent felt somewhat gloomy. At that moment, a topographical map of the area was hanging in the tent, and Orochimaru was chatting with a member of the Hyuga clan. Upon seeing the newcomers, he merely waved his hand dismissively, and Shisui and Yoru stood aside, waiting. "Hizashi, this time your Hyuga clan has a significant responsibility, but rest assured, the elite Uchiha ninjas have also arrived, and they can form a reconnaissance team with you." At this point, Orochimaru hadn't yet betrayed him, and although his demeanor exuded a certain gloom, it must be said that his personal charm had only just begun to diminish, and his words and actions now gave people a sense of reassurance. Facing him was Hyuga Hizashi, the younger brother of the Hyuga clan chief and the future genius Neiji's father. Hyuga Hizashi respectfully nodded to Orochimaru and said, "Lord Orochimaru, rest assured, the Hyuga clan will certainly not disappoint you." The Hyuga clan's Byakugan can be said to be the #1 investigative bloodline in the shinobi world, especially in the face of war. It can detect enemy movements very early, giving them the upper hand and allowing them to avoid enemy attacks. After Hyuga Hizashi finished speaking, he suddenly glanced at the two Uchiha clan youths who had just entered. A glint of light flashed in the depths of his eyes, and then he bowed his head and respectfully said, "Lord Orochimaru, I will go and assign the tasks now. Let's go." Orochimaru waved his hand, signaling Hyuga Hizashi to leave, then turned to observe the two Uchiha clan members before him with interest. After a long while, he licked his lower lip and couldn't help but exclaim, 13-year-old Jonin, truly the greatest genius of the clan." Upon hearing Orochimaru's words of encouragement, Uchiha Shisui didn't become agitated. Instead, he respectfully held a scroll in both hands, bowed his head, and said, "Uchiha Shisui, leading 8 members of the Uchiha Vanguard, has come specifically to deliver a message to Lord Orochimaru." Upon receiving the scroll, Orochimaru glanced at its contents with interest, then immediately revealed a hoarse, grinning smile, 1 3-Tamo Jonin, 3 Special Jonin, and 4 Elite Chunin. All Uchiha who have awakened the Sharingan, and all of them are young. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Shisui respectfully nodded and said, "More troops will be arriving soon." Upon hearing these words, Orochimaru chuckled, his pale golden snake-like eyes revealing an even more sinister expression. This scene secretly terrified Uchiha Yoru. The Sainin's aura was incredibly powerful, especially the overwhelming chakra pressure. He could finally understand the oppressive feeling Hozuki Sugetsu experienced when facing the second Hokage's chakra outburst in the original story. Not bad, very not bad. Is this what you Uchiha consider an investment? If Orochimaru was interested, he would smile broadly as he looked down at the two teenagers before him. At this point, he hadn't yet experienced the Mangekyou Sharingan, and his obsession with it hadn't yet reached its peak. After Orochimaru so bluntly and cheerfully uttered those words, Uchiha Shisui immediately felt a little embarrassed. It seemed too straightforward, and he didn't know how to respond. Perhaps it's true that Orochimaru never cared about what others thought. Orochimaru, still wearing his Konoha Jonin green vest, with long black hair, golden pupils, purple eyeshadow that reached his nostrils, and pale skin, looked at the two Uchiha clan members with interest, licking his lower lip. In his hoarse yet magnetic voice, he said, "I have received your kind offer, Uchiha. Someone will make arrangements for you later." Uchiha Yoru gazed at Orochimaru, who had always disregarded the opinions of others. If studying the human body could be considered a pursuit of power or a hobby, then the fact that he could so calmly turn his attention to a woman showed just how open-minded this man truly was. Upon hearing these words, Uchiha Shisui immediately broke into a smile, as if the Uchiha's intentions had been perfectly fulfilled and his mission accomplished. He respectfully nodded and said, "Thank you, Lord Orochimaru." Shisui respectfully nodded, intending to leave, but then noticed Uchiha Yoru beside him was motionless. Just as he was about to take him away, Yoru gave him a meaningful look, and he reluctantly left. At this moment, only Uchiha Yoru remained in the tent. Immediately, Orochimaru, if he felt like it, let out a hoarse laugh, a laugh that, it was unclear whether, was caused by the constant spitting and swallowing of snakes from his throat over the years. Haha, I wonder if Lord He has anything else to say. It must be said that Orochimaru was extremely polite, and although Uchiha Yoru knew the course of history, having survived in this world for so many years, he knew even more that his current strength was merely that of a chunin, and he couldn't change anything. Right now, he could only focus on strengthening himself first, and within his capabilities, turn the minds of those two Uchiha bastards back to normal. My lord Uchiha Yoru is acting on the orders of the elders. This statement directly declared his position. Just now, Uchiha Shisui was representing the entire Uchiha clan in showing his respect, so now he is acting on the elders' orders. The village experienced the Ninetales Rebellion, and the Third Hokage once again took power to stabilize Konoha. Lord Orochimaru was the fifth Hokage, a position of great importance and a source of admiration for all. At this point, Uchiha Night God respectfully assessed the powerful boss before him. The other party's mischievous smile was always so relaxed, exuding a unique personality charm. At this moment, Orochimaru was even more interested in observing the Uchiha Chunin before him, or rather, he wanted to hear more about the purpose of this Uchiha elder's visit, after all. It was quite interesting, wasn't it? Lord Orochimaru is in the prime of his life, yet he is now being secretly spied on by someone. If Lord Orochimaru were to ascend to the position of fifth Hokage, that person would undoubtedly have no hope left. Moreover, the Sarutobi clan does not want the third Hokage to abdicate again, and neither do the village's high-ranking officials. After saying these words, Uchiha Night God respectfully gazed at the legendary ninja Orochimaru before him. Orochimaru, upon hearing this, was initially startled, but then a smile appeared on his face, and he even licked his lips, letting out that unique, hoarse chuckle. How thoughtful, how thoughtful! I didn't expect Night Lord to be not only a Uchiha genius, but also a trusted elder. At 14 years old, a chunin who had just awakened a Sharingan, although a genius, was considered an ordinary genius in Orochimaru's eyes. However, the fact that this person could catch the eye of the Uchiha elder immediately piqued Orochimaru's interest. Being a chunin at 14 is considered good, especially if one has awakened their bloodline ability. Their future looks promising. Sarutobi Asuma became a chunin at 12, Yui Kurenai at 13, and Anko at 12. Recorded in the archives, seeing that Orochimaru, one of the Sannin, wasn't interested in the information he provided, but instead seemed to be interested in him. Uchiha Night Heart immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Damn it, no way! Because of this face. At this point, Uchiha Yoru hurriedly began to explain, as he didn't want to cause any misunderstandings, because if something serious happened, it would be too late. My face. Even though Orochimaru was a genius, he was still somewhat skeptical upon hearing this. Uchiha Yoru, however, feigned a friendly smile and nodded, saying, "It's because Anko is Lord Orochimaru's disciple. I'm in the same class as Anko." Upon hearing these words, Orochimaru's expression, which had been interested, instantly froze. It wasn't that he wasn't smart enough, it was simply that he couldn't react immediately. His interest diminished by 3 parts, replaced by a bored, even contemptuous, laugh. The Konoha clans are powerful and cunning. After all, powerful clans are adept at manipulating things. Ninjas are inherently deceitful, and naturally, their handsome looks can be used to deceive some people, especially female ninjas. Seduction is not uncommon, and in fact, quite prevalent. Many do it to complete missions, many for espionage, and some for marriage alliances. It's all for personal gain. Seeing Orochimaru's seemingly lost interest, Uchiha Yoru secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he lost interest in his body, that was fine. However, he really couldn't lose interest in him. Although it was a bit contradictory, he truly needed some information to benefit himself. He secretly apologized to the elder in his heart. Lord Orochimaru. At this point, Uchiha Yoru's face showed a serious expression, and a Sharingan appeared in his eyes as he surveyed the surroundings. Seeing this, Orochimaru's interest was piqued once again. He couldn't help but lick his lips and chuckle hoarsely. Yoru is truly a cautious person. Rest assured, there's no one here, not even my men. As a frontline commander, Orochimaru naturally had subordinates, especially as a strong contender for the 4th Hokage position at the beginning. Within the village, he also had a loyal group of followers, so naturally, he didn't lack perceptive ninjas. Uchiha Yoru, upon hearing Orochimaru's words, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This time, he was planning to drop a major bombshell, and he had to achieve 2 things. Firstly, to let Orochimaru know that he was a trusted confidant of the Uchiha elders. And secondly, to showcase the Uchiha's intelligence capabilities. Human body experiments. After uttering those 4 words, Uchiha Yoru immediately fell silent, and even the air seemed to become stifling. For half a day afterward, Orochimaru's hoarse laughter echoed from within the tent, further revealing an air of nonchalance, as if he had never cared about being discovered or panicked. Would release. As these 2 words were uttered, Orochimaru's pale golden pupils suddenly contracted, and a fleeting murderous aura flashed through the air, instantly causing Uchiha Yoru to break out in a cold sweat, his hair standing on end. Haha, it seems like Night Lord behind the Uchiha knows a lot of things. At this moment, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes, silently analyzing the situation in his mind. It was impossible. A human test subject might not escape the watchful eyes of someone with ulterior motives, but only Danzo and he knew about would release, and a few Root members. He had never considered Root before. After all, Danzo's methods were not to be underestimated. Given Danzo's perception of the Uchiha's character, it was impossible for them to reveal anything like that. Therefore, there was only one possibility. The Uchiha's intelligence-gathering abilities in the shadows far exceeded his imagination. A smile immediately appeared on his face, and his interest grew even stronger. Konoha's front line, inside the encampment. Orochimaru revealed his bright red tongue, staring at the other person with an extremely perverted gaze. His eyes gleamed with excitement, as if to say, "That's not enough. Tell me your Uchiha information. Let me see what it is." As for a threat, haha, he never considered it. Threatening a Sannin. Aren't you afraid he'll turn against you and unite with Danzo and all of Konoha against the Uchiha? No one is a fool. Seeing Orochimaru's interest piqued, Uchiha Nightheart secretly felt fortunate at this moment. He was lucky to know the direction of this world, to have future intelligence in his hands, and not to be afraid of failing to sway the other party. According to reliable intelligence, one of Lord Orochimaru's would-release test subjects miraculously survived and even awakened a bloodline ability. He is now en route, Kodenamda. After saying all this, Uchiha Nightheart felt even more secretly pleased. He simply didn't believe that Orochimaru, having studied various Konoha materials, could be unaware of the true power of wood release. Now that he knew wood release had reappeared and was escaping from his hands, wouldn't he be shocked? Using something useless like that, merely exchanging intelligence for benefits, that's what makes a deal profitable. As for revealing the future would release Ninja Yamato, what does that have to do with him? Knowing the future clearly, of course, he has to maximize his own benefits. Indeed, when Orochimaru heard that another person from his experiments years ago had survived and awakened would release, his expression immediately changed. But he quickly suppressed the excitement in his heart. He then looked up with interest and glanced at the Uchiha clan members in front of him. Haha, it seems the Uchiha's intelligence network isn't as simple as we imagined. They even managed to uncover information about Root. At this moment, Orochimaru's fear was undeniable. He knew that almost all of the Root ninjas had their tongues sealed with the Cursed Seal. In terms of intelligence and security within the shinobi world, Root was undoubtedly one of the top 10, yet these Uchiha had managed to uncover Root's secrets. It's not that the Uchiha lack this kind of strength. As the #1 noble family of Konoha, their strength is absolutely unquestionable. But this is intelligence. It's not actual strength. As Uchiha Yoru had predicted, Orochimaru attributed everything to the Uchiha clan. After all, let alone a mere 1 Tamo Chunin, even a 3 Tamo elite Jonin would find it pointless. Haha, Night Lord, you're quite something. Others will only know that you used your appearance to approach Anko and achieve your goal. But more people will pay attention to another elite Uchiha squad. Haha, they won't know that Night Lord is actually the Uchiha's confidant. At this moment, Orochimaru smiled broadly. He understood everything. Yoro was a trusted confidant of the Uchiha clan. Although her strength wasn't anything special, it was precisely this talent that made her so good at relaying intelligence. On the surface, he was using his appearance to approach Anko, his disciple, to achieve some goal. In reality, he was directly transmitting intelligence to him. Uchiha was playing a clever trick, and this move was truly impressive, even making him somewhat pleased. He had underestimated the Uchiha. So Dequan will form a small team with Anko tomorrow, making them perfect teammates. Orochimaru, with a hoarse voice and a forced smile, decided to approach this Uchiha clan member first to see how much information they possessed that exceeded his expectations, and how many surprises they could offer him. Upon hearing Orochimaru's arrangements, Uchiha Yoro immediately displayed a professional smile, secretly thinking to himself, "I've finally achieved my goal. All I need to do now is quickly get the 1,000,000 yen that the elder promised me, and then I can move one step further in my plan." Thank you, Lord Orochimaru. The above intelligence was discovered by chance. It seems even the third Hokage is unaware of this, and furthermore, this intelligence was secretly investigated under the orders of the fourth Hokage. Uchiha Yoro nodded gratefully, then immediately threw another big pot at him. After all, the fourth Hokage was already dead inside the belly of a god, and Orochimaru certainly wouldn't know. In short, it had nothing to do with him. He was just a messenger. "You must ensure the safety of my front line," he said. Upon hearing this, Orochimaru immediately showed an expression of sudden understanding. So that's it, no wonder. This first explanation makes all the sense. Although the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato, had only been in office for a year, he was still the Hokage, and naturally had to deal with power struggles. Moreover, this was the first time in Konoha's history, even since the village's founding, that two Hokages had existed simultaneously. The usual pattern is that the previous Hokage either dies in battle or is killed in action before the next succeeds. This system doesn't exist. Firstly, there's a problem. The third Hokage is still alive and didn't die in battle, so naturally, he wants to retain some of his powers, and that's precisely why the third Hokage is under the direct control of the Anbu. In the anime, during the Nine-Tails Night, someone clearly exclaimed, "It's the third Hokage." So it's speculated that the fourth Hokage also had his own Anbu. Therefore, Minato needed to cultivate his own people. But this was too slow. A more rapid method would be to win them over, and the unwelcome Uchiha were the best people to win over. Thinking about this, Orochimaru couldn't help but feel a sense of nostalgia. No wonder Minato and Fugaku were so close in the beginning, and even the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and Uchiha Mikoto were so close. It turned out that the snot-nosed kid had grown into a competent politician. It was all because of his own contempt. As the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato was at the center of power, naturally making it easier for him to gather intelligence, and this was further compounded by the elusive Hiraition. Thinking of this, Orochimaru couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Minato had discovered the existence of wood-release ninjas, but he didn't have enough resources to investigate, so the Uchiha clan became the best candidate. It made perfect sense. If Uchiha Yoro knew Orochimaru's speculation right now, he'd probably give a thumbs up, saying, "That's right. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what you're thinking. Lord Orochimaru, the Uchiha clan will do everything in their power to help you become the fifth Hokage." At this moment, Uchiha Yorichi's face showed an extremely respectful and fervent expression of her loyalty, while Orochimaru also revealed his unique, hoarse laugh. "Haha, Knight Army, Anko is my student, and this squad is under my personal leadership." Upon hearing these words, Uchiha Yoro immediately showed excitement, bowing 90 degrees and shouting loudly, "Teacher Orochimaru, don't talk about face, let alone the possibility of Orochimaru betraying and fleeing later. Immediate self-interest is the most crucial factor. Moreover, Orochimaru betrayed and fled because of the human experiment. If he were to be held accountable, there would be countless ninjas surrounding him, and the law wouldn't hold them accountable. Moreover, he had the Uchiha clan backing him, and based on his, Orochimaru would betray and flee at least 2 years later. By then, he would be unable to stop him, thus allowing him to profit from the situation. Stop him. Orochimaru currently has no interest in the Uchiha clan, and that's even before he's been beaten up by the Mangekyo Sharingan. If he really becomes Hokage, well, the Uchiha might not be wiped out, but they'll definitely become regular customers of Orochimaru's laboratory. Therefore, he wouldn't stop it. On the contrary, he wanted to pursue immense benefits here, otherwise, when would he ever be able to save enough money to buy Mangekyo gold coins? The more Orochimaru betrayed and fled, the better the speculation became. Uchiha Yoru sneered. The fourth Hokage has just died, the border is in turmoil, and anyone with common sense knows that as soon as the border is stabilized, it will be time to nominate the fifth Hokage. But the border region's political turmoil will last at least a year or a year and a half, and Orochimaru's betrayal and escape are probably not just Danzo's fault, they're politically motivated. As long as Danzo still wanted to be Hokage, he didn't want the young Orochimaru to take the throne. The other factor was the collective political interests of the third Hokage. Even if Sarutobi didn't want it, the Sarutobi clan and the Aino Shikacho clans, driven by their own interests, would silently accept this. Konoha border. A towering tree cast its shadow over her, revealing a young girl wearing a fishing net. Her short, dark purple hair was tied back with a small flower at the nape of her neck. She was clearly only 12 years old, yet she was toying with a kunai in her hand, and a subtle, bloodthirsty smile played on her face. Haha, Yoru, I didn't think you'd become Orochimaru's student. It seems you're not just relying on your looks. The young Mitarashi Anko deliberately imitated Orochimaru, feigning a bloodthirsty demeanor, especially by sticking out her cute tongue to lick the kunai in a threatening manner, much to the amusement of Uchiha Yoru beside her. Anko, is your tongue burning up? Uchiha Yoru's blunt remark instantly dampened the already tense atmosphere, and Anko, being the playful and mischievous type, immediately looked skeptical and said, "A burning tongue. What do you mean?" Seeing Anko's innocent, bewildered expression, Uchiha Yoru narrowed his eyes and whispered, pointing to his own mouth, "My mouth is rather cold. You could come to me to cool it down a bit. It's not as good as a kunai." A teasing remark fell from her lips, and Anko was initially stunned, then a smile appeared on her face. However, this time the smile carried a hint of danger, and this time it wasn't feigned. Haha, Yoru, you're right. Maybe next time I can have you cool me down a bit right in front of Kurenai. After Anko finished speaking with a dangerously cheerful smile, she immediately changed to a completely different expression, coldly saying, "Although Teacher Orochimaru assigned me to your team, I won't be protecting you during the mission." Mitarashi Anko, a Sannin and one of Orochimaru's students, graduated from school at the age of 10 and became a Chunin at 12. She could be considered a genius girl, and naturally, she was displeased with Uchiha Yoru, who had only just been promoted to Chunin at the age of 14. Haha, Anko, don't be so heartless. At this moment, Mitarashi Anko narrowed her eyes, looking at the most handsome classmate from their school days, Uchiha Yoru, who was also her best friend's boyfriend. In her heart, she was secretly calculating. This Uchiha Yoru was a hawk who wouldn't let go until he'd seen the rabbit. She knew exactly how Yuhi Kurenai had managed to win him over. Uchiha Yoru, don't just glance around dismissively. You've gone to all this trouble to come to the front lines and even become Orochimaru's student. What exactly do you want? At this moment, Mitarashi Anko gave a similar observing glance, signaling that although her personality was somewhat carefree, she still possessed the mental fortitude of a ninja. Seeing Anko's expression, Uchiha Yoru immediately shrugged and shook his head helplessly. Anko, you're so cold-blooded. You don't care about your old classmates at all. Was it unintentional? At first, I didn't know who Kurenai was, but she bought their body with a gold chain. Holy cow! Upon hearing Anko directly expose the sensational news, Uchiha Yoru glared, reluctantly letting go of her hand and saying, "Anko, out of respect for our old classmate, I'll give you a chance to make a fortune this time, 100,000. With his index fingers gesturing wildly, Uchiha Yoru made a gesture resembling a 10-finger hand gesture. At this moment, he licked the corner of his mouth, revealing a smug expression, as if to say, "Look at me, that's impressive enough." Now, the third Hokage is once again in power in the village, but everyone knows that once the turmoil subsides, the fifth Hokage will eventually be nominated, and this fifth Hokage. At this point, Uchiha Yoro didn't say anything, just gave Anko a knowing look, and immediately Anko's head started spinning. Well done, Uchiha Yoru! You're approaching Orochimaru-sensei on the orders of the Uchiha clan. Facing Anko's fierce protective gaze, Uchiha Yoru shook his head disapprovingly and said, "You might be wrong. I'm here on orders to approach Orochimaru's disciple. You understand?" Upon hearing those last three words, her eyebrows furrowed even more, and immediately Anko's expression turned furious. She fiercely thrust the kunai in her hand into the wooden stake beneath her. 100,000. You think 100,000 is enough to complete the deal? You're Kurenai's boyfriend, and Kurenai is my closest friend. No way. Seeing Anko's resolute and contemptuous gaze, Uchiha Yoru immediately sneered. Anko, don't talk nonsense. What Kurenai's boyfriend? You need to add the word before that. Ex-boyfriend. Anko was instantly startled. Was she planning to blackmail him with a direct hot bath? But her mind raced, and she instantly thought of something, her lips slowly curving into a smile. That's your boyfriend's money. Huh, you seem pretty good to me. You know that the Uchiha clan's identity is sensitive right now, and you even know to stay away from Kurenai. In this ninja world, early maturity is very normal, not to mention those who have been on the battlefield for many years. Those without brains would have long since been buried in the cold earth. As for the protagonist, that's completely outside the scope. He sheathed his kunai, sharpening it in its scabbard. At that moment, Mitarashi Anko walked over, looking at him with an arrogant expression. 300,000, I'll pretend to help you successfully approach them, and when you complete your family mission, we'll split the benefits equally. That's quite something, Uchiha Yoru said, his eyes widening in disbelief as he immediately refused without hesitation, saying, impossible. After completing this mission, the clan only gave me a total of 300,000 ryo. After working for half a day, I didn't even get a single penny. Seeing Uchiha Yoruichi's resolute refusal, Anko's lips slowly curved into a cunning, satisfied smile. She had finally figured out the other party's bottom line. Originally it was 300,000, so that's 200,000 for me and 100,000 for you. Are you going to do it or not? At this moment, Mitarashi Anko also directly revealed a confident and arrogant expression, as if to say, are you going to do it or not? If you don't, you won't get a single penny. 150,000. We'll split it equally. HMPH, stop talking nonsense, or you won't get a single penny. Good? Finally, Uchiha Yoruichi's pained expression subsided, while Mitarashi Anko revealed a triumphant smile. Despite the annoyed and headache-like expression on her face, Uchiha Nightheart secretly muttered to herself, Girl, you're not bad, but unfortunately you still underestimate your current value. Just your status as Orochimaru's teacher is enough to double the impact. TSK. After all, you're still just a ninja with a tool-like mindset. Both of them had their own agendas. One showed a smile on her face, the other a smile in her heart. Anko practically didn't have to do anything to get to 100,000, while Uchiha Yoru could directly extract 1 million from the clan. TSK. The 200,000 in funding provided by the clan was just enough. At this time, Anko was merely a chunin, and the pay for wartime missions was already low, so she was naturally short on money. As for Orochimaru, not to mention, research funding was a money-burning machine. To say Orochimaru wasn't worried about his personal finances would be utter nonsense. In the original story, even the Akatsuki's Heavenly Legion once bowed down to mercenaries to raise funds for money. Fire Nation border. Shisui Jonin. That's simply not enough. You should know that Anko is not only a beautiful young woman, but she's also Lord Orochimaru's student. I just met her and had to expend a tremendous amount of effort to build a relationship with her, and only then did I manage to reluctantly join her squad. At this moment, inside the Uchiha tent, Uchiha Yoruichi, looking exhausted, immediately started complaining about the water after entering, while Uchiha Shisu listened with a surprised expression. Yes, big brother, you mean you've teamed up with Anko? At this moment, Uchiha Shisui's eyes widened. How long had it been? Not even half a day. They had only arrived at the front lines less than half a day ago. and yet the enemy had already completed half of their mission. At this moment, Uchiha Shisui looked at Uchiha Yoru's handsome face and immediately muttered to himself, "The elder was right. My talent in this area is still far inferior to that of my elder brother Yoru." Seeing Uchiha Shisui's shocked expression, Uchiha Yoru secretly sneered, "What's there to be shocked about? Doesn't flirting require money?" He insisted on spending money and, moreover, spending lavishly. Otherwise, how could he live up to the status of being one of Orochimaru's disciples among the Sennin? He absolutely had to get Shisui to relay a message to the family to make them understand a principle. Even ordinary love intelligence requires a fee, let alone this Anko, who is like a wealthy young lady. How could she be easily won over? Ah, Shisui, this time I really swallowed my pride to get Anko to agree. And besides. At this moment, Uchiha Yoruichi hesitated to speak, then looked at Uchiha Shisui, who nodded solemnly and said, "Yes, big brother, there are no outsiders here. Please feel free to tell me what's difficult." Waiting for those words, Uchiha Yoru then showed a troubled expression, pretending to be struggling to make a decision, and finally let out a deep sigh. "Shisui, there's something you don't know. At school, Kurenai and Anko were really good friends, as you know. We relied on our looks to make a living. Now Kurenai and I have broken up, but you know Anko." With a look of awkwardness on his face, Uchiha Shisui instantly adopted a solemn expression and nodded. He understood. How could he not understand? Good and bad all begin in school. How could Uchiha Yoru's name be unknown to him? In school, if you were to say who was a genius, it would definitely be Hada Kakashi. But if you were to say who was the most handsome, who was the most popular with girls, it would definitely be Uchiha Yoru. Suddenly, Uchiha Shisui's mind raced, conjuring up a cliched plot, Yui Kurenai and his senior becoming boyfriend and girlfriend, while his good friend Mitarashi Anko could only silently offer her blessings. But now she had the chance. Looking at Uchiha Shisui's determined expression after the initial shock, a look of sympathy appeared in his eyes, as if to say, "For the sake of your clan, your self-sacrifice is truly admirable." But Uchiha Yoru was secretly cursing, "You Shisui are truly a blockhead. No wonder you were swayed into a crippled state. You don't even know how to open your mouth and provide funding." "Shisui, Anko is a childhood friend of mine. This time, I'll tell you about my family's difficult situation, and Anko is willing to speak to Lord Orochimaru about it, to see if it's possible for me to become Lord Orochimaru's student." After Uchiha Yoru finished speaking, Uchiha Shisui was immediately moved. This was a crucial factor concerning the rise and fall of the clan. Once Big Brother Yi truly becomes Lord Orochimaru's student, then in the future, the Uchiha clan will once again establish a relationship of trust with the Hokage's faction within the village. After all, Orochimaru is definitely the future 5th Hokage. In this world, excluding father-son relationships, the most trusted relationship among ninjas is that of teammates, and then there's the teacher-student relationship. Essentially, the teacher-student relationship. At this moment, in Uchiha Shisui's eyes, it was clear that Mitarashi Anko wanted to help Uchiha Yoru become Orochimaru's student. It was a master-disciple relationship, only lacking the father-son bond between teacher and student. That teacher-student relationship is similar to the one between the 3rd Hokage and the Sennin, even in this era. The bond between teacher and student is no less significant than the bond between father and son. Yes, big brother, are you saying Anko is willing to let Lord Orochimaru become your team leader? At this moment, Uchiha Shisui's face showed excitement. If this relationship could be confirmed, it would be similar to the 4th Hokage, Kakashi, who could directly join the Anbu. At that time, the Uchiha clan would once again receive the Hokage's trust. Uchiha Yoruichi sighed reluctantly. "Shisui Jonin, I think you need to contact your clan. Anko has gone to see Lord Orochimaru, and she even said with her chest puffed out, so it's almost certainly true. But..." At this point, Uchiha Yoru gave a wry smile and said, "Finances. I need a large amount of funding. You know, Anko is Lord Orochimaru's disciple, and she has no shortage of ninjutsu and secret techniques. Whether I can become Lord Orochimaru's disciple again is unclear, but Anko absolutely cannot be abandoned. Anko is different from other female ninjas, so right now I can only rely on my clan's accumulated resources." Uchiha Yoru's meaning was very simple. Anko is now a wealthy young lady, lacking nothing. Right now, her help is based on the feelings they have for each other at school. But over time, he will lack nothing, and she will lack nothing. Eventually, the feelings will fade, and a wealthy young lady won't care about a poor boy. One sentence. My family took advantage of the time to provide me with all sorts of conveniences, turning me into a wealthy young master. So wouldn't that make me a perfect match, a golden boy and a jade girl? That way, firstly, there would be no more scenes of spoiled rich girls being an eyesore. Uchiha Shisui also showed a look of realization. Although he hadn't mentioned having a girlfriend, he understood this principle. Only when the distance between them narrows can they communicate better. Brother, rest assured, I will immediately send a message to the family. You can rest easy. Uchiha Shisui nodded firmly, even though he knew Uchiha Yoru had ulterior motives. But who in this world doesn't have selfish motives? Yoru relied on her looks to complete the mission, obtain the necessary items, and satisfy a small personal desire. Was she wrong? That's correct. Seeing Uchiha Shisui's attitude, Uchiha Yoru immediately showed a ashamed expression and sighed, but inwardly he was secretly pleased. It seemed he had to seize the opportunity. Before Orochimaru betrayed and fled, he had to ruthlessly fleece the entire clan. In any case, he wouldn't just pluck the wool from the entire clan. Even if they were wiped out, Konoha would benefit from it. It would be better for him to transform the wool from these sheep into his own strength. From the moment his family forced him to undertake this mission, he began plotting in his heart, aiming to maximize his benefits and strengthen his power as quickly as possible. Engraving. Now this is the only way to go, but engraving relies on one task for one reward point, which is truly like a snail walking, moving at the speed of a turtle. Only by plucking the goat's hair from the clan, using the fastest speed to strengthen himself, will his strength be great enough to at least gain the clan's respect after Orochimaru's betrayal and escape. At that time, whether it's receiving missions or seeking benefits within the clan, he will have more opportunities. Uchiha Yoru pondered silently. The clan's reputation needed to be tamed, but that wasn't enough. After all, Orochimaru's betrayal and escape had only happened 2 years ago, so he needed a second path. One thing that could keep him busy for a long time was intelligence gathering. Trading in intelligence yielded enormous profits. Thinking this, Uchiha Yoru's face lit up with a smile. The current turmoil in Konoha was the best intelligence, and besides, he was on the front lines. Lightning Kingdom. Lord Raikage, this intelligence report seems rather unusual. At this moment, sitting in the Raikage's office working as the fourth Raikage's successor, the battle-scarred man was trying to suppress his agitated temper as he looked at the intelligence report in his hand, his eyebrows immediately furrowing into a serious expression. The verification is inappropriate, but it shouldn't be taken lightly. First, let's have the intelligence agency investigate and see if the intelligence is true or false. If it's true, then it's just a matter of some money. At this point, the intelligence brought in by those below showed that the Raikage neither ignored it nor took it too seriously. After all, there couldn't be many such traitors in a year. Every country has spies, and similarly, there will be traitors who sell out their own village for huge rewards. Some do it for ninjutsu, some for revenge, and some are simply cowardly and afraid of death, having been caught red-handed by their own spies. In short, the shinobi world has never lacked traitors. There have always been some. However, this time, the traitor seems to have a rather unusual identity, as he possesses some intelligence about Konoha's border. Keep a close eye on this line of communication, and see if this mole is real or fake. The fourth Raikage spoke in a low, neither too loud nor too soft, voice. The ninja who had come to report to him immediately nodded respectfully and said, "Yes, Raikage-sama." Similarly, this type of mole will also be a fake. Initially, they pass on some genuine information to gain trust. Then during crucial intelligence gathering missions, they use a ratio of 9 truths to 1 falsehood. That last falsehood can trap and bury many of their elite ninjas. These are all tactics that various countries excel at. Even knowing the possibility of misinformation, the ninja nations continued their relentless efforts. This was because they all had professional departments dedicated to analyzing and verifying the authenticity of intelligence. Earth Kingdom. Hidden Stone Village. Sachikage in his office. At this moment, Naoki looked at the intelligence report that had been handed to him, reading it down quickly. This experienced Naoki remained completely unmoved, merely placing the report coldly on the table. This allows people to examine this intelligence carefully and to verify its authenticity. Yes, if it's true, even a small amount of money or material possessions would be acceptable, as long as the information is accurate. As for this type of internal traitor, the experienced Noki had seen it all too often and didn't take this piece of intelligence too seriously. The Water Kingdom of Misty Village. In the gloomy room, Suikazen Fuguki looked at the intelligence report in his hand, a sinister smile appearing on his face. Haha, so it's just a little insect. I hope your intelligence is true. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind slaughtering a few Konoha ninjas to vent my anger. Fire Nation border. Uchiha Yoriichi returned to her tent with a relieved expression, and upon seeing the operating funds that Shisui had just given her, a smile immediately spread across her face. Indeed, the fastest way to get things done is by plucking the goat's wool. The Uchiha clan truly lives up to its reputation as Konoha's #1 noble family. Don't be fooled by how arrogant each member seems. They are incredibly generous to their own family. Not only did 1,000,000 reward missions arrive, but the family also specially provided a considerable amount of funding. After the entire exchange was completed, a pleasant, clear voice immediately echoed in his head. Gold coins, 280,000. Looking at this number, Uchiha Yoro smiled. Not bad. It seems I still need to work harder. If I can become Orochimaru's disciple, I'm afraid I'll get even more resources. $1,000,000 reward for the mission. On the second day, when he publicly met Orochimaru in the camp and called him teacher, the Uchiha ninja immediately relayed this shocking news back. Naturally, the mission was considered completed, exceeding all expectations. Even now, the clan has given him another mission, to wholeheartedly pledge allegiance to Orochimaru, the Sannin. And all the elite members of the Uchiha clan on the front lines will provide him with their full support. Uchiha Yura smiled brightly, her hands beginning to form hand seals. Pig, dog, rooster, monkey, void. Kuchioshi no Jutsu. A flash of white smoke appeared, and a gray eagle-like figure materialized on his shoulder. This was the spirit beast he had bought for 30,000 gold coins. The eagle, lacking any special abilities, not even the words of a wise man, its intelligence merely slightly superior to that of ordinary animals, was precisely why he looked up to it. Without Kuchiyoshi's intelligence, even if captured by a ninja, genjutsu or even memory scanning techniques would be unable to clearly probe his memories. He is useless, because there is simply no connection between them. But as an excellent method of transmitting intelligence, the great gray eagle on its shoulder slowly opened its mouth and spat out 3 scrolls. Following the gray eagle as the white smoke dissipated, Uchiha Yoro, rubbing his Tochi sword, opened the scroll. Upon seeing the thickness of the gold bars between his fingertips, he immediately revealed a satisfied smile. Top up your account. Gold coins, 330,000. TSK, murder and arson, the golden demon belt. What our ancestors said was indeed true. Seeing his gold coin limit instantly skyrocket to 300,000, Uchiha Yoro immediately showed a mixture of excitement and frustration. Damn it, why couldn't his talent be a little better? If he had been a little more gifted and graduated earlier, he would have already become a seasoned war prodigy during the 3 battles. You're wrong. He graduated and worked hard for several years, only earning 500,000 gold coins. That includes money given to him by his family, as well as inheritances and real estate left behind by his parents. Knowing that they wanted to move after the Nine-Tailed Fox's night, they naturally sold off their real estate in the gold-rich area as soon as possible, which is how they managed to raise 500,000 gold coins. Just the initial information alone fetched 50,000 gold coins. Imagine if you traded more intelligence, especially important pieces of information. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yoro immediately showed an excited expression, and at that moment, he shouted good. Whether betraying Konoha's intelligence for money was shameful or not, at this moment he only had one thing to say: nonsense. The Uchiha clan was already heading towards extinction, and he was saving the clan. Even if he betrayed enough intelligence to cause border conflict, only then could he truly save the family. Once war breaks out, even if it's just a continuous localized border conflict, Konoha will be constantly held back by the border war zone. At that point, even if they wanted to take action against the Uchiha, they would be powerless. How could this be called selling intelligence? He's clearly saving his clan, saving Orotten Konoha. 330,000 gold coins, ninjutsu, jinjutsu, even taijutsu are all available, but there aren't enough bloodline abilities to upgrade. Therefore, the only way is to increase my abilities as quickly as possible. At this moment, Uchiha Yoro narrowed his eyes. What lay ahead was likely Konoha's last period of peace. Once Orochimaru betrayed and fled, Konoha's borders would no longer be secure, and the turmoil of war in this border region could continue for several years. In the original story, the Land of Lightning was the first to sign a peace treaty with Konoha, which proves that the two sides had been fighting on the border for countless years. Furthermore, Uchiha Shisu returned after the war ended on the battlefield against the Hidden Mist village ninjas. Only then did Konoha finally achieve complete peace. The Ninetales Rebellion and the Fourth Hokage's death in battle were the sparks that ignited a firestorm. The atmosphere on the border became tense, and even he realized that some smaller ninja villages were trying to profit from the war between the great nations. When Orochimaru betrayed and fled, it was likely the trigger for a localized war. If it weren't for the three wars that resulted in such heavy losses for all nations, this would absolutely not have been a localized war. You should exchange items for points. Chakra Attribute. Lightning Leaf 3 upgrade consumed 100,000 gold coins, successfully upgraded Lightning Attribute Chakra to LV4. A rank Chidori Ninjutsu accelerates training experience. Purchase requires 120,000 gold coins to master the rank Chidori Ninjutsu. In his mind, he kept hearing the various experiences of using Chidori, seemingly having completely mastered it. At the same time, the chakra within his body felt slightly different. At this moment, Uchiha Yoro knew that he had successfully mastered Chidori, and even his chakra attributes had upgraded. Fortunately, he possessed the Chidori Jutsu, so he could achieve his goal of mastering it simply by purchasing experience packs. However, even so, it cost him a full 120,000 gold coins to completely master this jutsu. Now that he only had 11,000 gold coins left, Uchiha Yoro narrowed his eyes and muttered, Orochimaru is still on his honeymoon with Danzo right now, so I can't put any effort into the Sharingan. After all, Danzo is a complete skeptic of Sharingan below the 3-Tomo level, and I need to gain Orochimaru's attention. That's the only way. The entire balance of swordsmanship martial arts experience points has been used. 110,000 gold coins have been consumed. Swordsmanship martial arts has been upgraded to LV4 experience. As the name suggests, is meant to allow the user to directly master a certain skill after engraving it, or to elevate a certain skill to a higher level. These ranks correspond to each other's strength. Leave 1 ninja student gives leave to Genin gives leave 3 Chunin gives leave 4 special gives leave 5 Jonin gives leave 6 elite Jonin gives leave 7 cage level gives leave 8 super cage gives leave 9 6 Pat's level gives leave 10 Otsutsuki. At this moment, Uchiha Yoro felt the changes in his body and couldn't help but secretly shake his head and sigh, saying, indeed, this is just an increase in skill and experience. Experience alone won't directly improve physical qualities. Similarly, swordsmanship and taijutsu are interconnected, but after his advancement, he only gained skill and experience, while his body still needed training and development. It's like in the original story, Sasuke, after his eyes were opened, could clearly see through Rock Lee's movements, but his body still couldn't keep up. He also worked very hard before this. His swordsmanship and chakra attribute proficiency were both at the Chunin level. After directly engraving the gold, these two aspects directly increased to the special Jonin level, saving him at least 1 or 2 years of training. More importantly, he also mastered an rank ninjutsu. Furthermore, during the Ninetales night, he awakened a Sharingan, bringing his overall strength down to the level of an elite Chunin. Each ninja had their own unique strengths and style. Most were discovered and honed through trial and error, eventually developing their own fighting style. But Uchiha Yoro confidently chuckled, thinking, why waste so much energy? It's better to follow someone else's path and make them follow his. For example, in his early plan, following Uchiha Sasuke of the Snake Team path would be perfect. Most importantly, it would save money. The future development path is just right. Chidori, a ninjutsu system that combines offense and defense, is not only effective but also saves money. As for being cool and handsome, who wouldn't like being handsome while maintaining their strength? Most importantly, they can use this to build their reputation, and then their prestige within the clan will be sufficient. He's currently in Orochimaru's squad, which is perfect. He can perfectly replicate Uchiha Sasuke's early fighting style, and then he can even get some benefits from the clan, even imprinting Orochimaru's mark on them. Could it be that Orochimaru's mark is even inferior to that of the Uchiha clan? At the very least, since Orochimaru didn't betray or flee beforehand, and he had a reverse Orochimaru-type mark on him, he could reap the greatest benefits, and even more so afterwards. Haha, so he wanted to reap the greatest benefits during this period, using all his abilities to fleece the sheep, and then strengthen himself. Yoru, let's go. Teacher Orochimaru has a mission. At that moment, Anko's voice came from outside the tent, and Uchiha Yoru, who had already heard the footsteps, smiled and said, "Anko's here." Uchiha Yoru, with his handsome face beaming like sunshine, and Mitarashi Anko, with her usual arrogant demeanor, walked together towards Orochimaru's tent, a scene that naturally drew the attention of others. As expected, the other ninjas muttered to themselves, "This Uchiha clan is truly despicable, using their beauty to seduce Orochimaru's disciples for their own benefit." The faces of the elite Uchiha clan ninja youths were all somewhat embarrassed. It was so obvious they couldn't possibly fail to see it. Many of them secretly felt fortunate that they weren't the ones who had betrayed their bodies. Even Uchiha Shisui secretly watched the two walk away and couldn't help but sigh inwardly, "Big brother, you've worked hard. The clan will never forget you." For the sake of duty, for the sake of their family, they would betray their own feelings and even their bodies. For them, this was a commendable act. Yoru, look at the reputation of you Uchiha clan members. It's not very good. As death approached, Anko continued to tease and joke, while Uchiha Yoru shrugged and laughed, saying, "There's nothing I can do about it. It's all for the village." That's right, if it weren't for the Uchiha clan's arduous efforts to complete the mission, how could they have captured these spies? How could he have obtained intelligence from spies in the land of lightning, the land of earth, and the land of water? Even the Feng Kingdom could only sigh in frustration. He also wanted to sell the information to the Feng Kingdom, but unfortunately, there were currently no Feng Kingdom spies transmitting intelligence through any channels. Otherwise, he would have sold it long ago. There are still so many small countries like this. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yoru immediately showed a fervent and excited fighting spirit. The revolution is not yet successful, comrades still need to strive. He absolutely must become big. He must become powerful. Among the 5 great nations, excluding Konoha and Shikoku, and even every small nation, he must become the biggest intelligence agent. Because Konoha is growing bigger and stronger, unleashing its excess energy. It's all for the village. Fire Nation border. Endless in the dense forest, it felt as if we had stepped back into ancient times. People of average height, standing on tree trunks, looked like kittens, and dark shadows darted through the woods. Shadows flashed by, moving with extreme agility in the ancient, dense forest. At this moment, Anko and Uchiha Yoru gazed intently at the figures from the past. "Yoru, these people are intelligence agents." At that moment, Uchiha Yoru's eyes, tinged with red, spun around a Magatama. With his powerful vision, he clearly saw a shadowy figure passing by, and said in a low voice, "A small squad, led by one person, with 3 subordinates, a total of 4. The leader is approximately 25 years old, carrying a shinobi katana on his back. The other 3 are all male, around 12 or 13 years old." Uchiha Yoru calmly reported the intelligence he had gathered, and Mitarashi Anko, standing beside him, didn't find it unusual. Normally, ninjas would act on impulse, a kind of indirect release of anger, but during a mission, especially while preparing for battle, no one would joke around at this time. Just then, a loud explosion resounded in the distance, followed by a blood-curdling scream. The leading ninja immediately raised his hand in alarm to stop those behind him from advancing, and shouted, "There's a trap! Retreat quickly!" But at that very moment, 2 dark figures flashed past from behind them in the forest, directly blocking the retreating ninja's escape route. For ninjas, one of whom had just been directly killed by the explosive trap, clearly a young ninja, remained. The 2 remaining young ninjas looked serious, but upon seeing the newcomer, their eyes immediately glazed over, and a look of terror appeared on their faces as they trembled and said, "Great, great! Orochimaru!" Rustling sound. From the shadows, only Orochimaru's sinister face slowly emerged from the tree trunk, a mocking, cat-like smile playing on his lips. He slowly extended his tongue, licked his lips, and said in his hoarse voice, "Haha, it seems there are a few little mice." Orochimaru. The terrified ninja leader below, trembling, uttered this name, instantly causing the two other ninjas to show expressions of shock. Orochimaru, one of the Sennin. How could that be? But at that very moment, a swift, wine-tearing sound struck, and countless flashes of cold light appeared as shurikens attacked from behind. No, that's not right. Sensing an attack from behind, the leading ninja suddenly showed an expression of ecstatic joy. If Orochimaru was really here, why would he attack? Run! Orochimaru has no chance of winning here. Run! I'll cover you. You go deal with the ambushers. Suddenly, the ninja shouted loudly at the two students, then frantically charged towards Orochimaru. It must be said that this person possessed considerable experience. In the blink of an eye, he analyzed the situation and concluded that Orochimaru was definitely a fake. Otherwise, why would he have ordered an attack? He didn't know how powerful the person behind it all was, but his two students could conveniently investigate for him. Upon hearing this, the two young students immediately showed signs of excitement. Their teacher was leading the team. Careful! In a fleeting moment, but also in the blink of an eye, the leading ninja, without a ninja headband, drew a shinobi katana from behind his back and launched it at Orochimaru, while the two students behind him each grabbed a kunai, instantly deflecting the projectiles in his place. A perfect combination. At that moment, the tree trunk in Orochimaru's shadow suddenly revealed a look of horror, involuntarily recoiling backward. As it retreated, the ninja's face instantly showed a ferocious, ecstatic expression. "You're courting death?" He almost got scared out of his wits. If he hadn't quickly spotted the opponent's weakness, he would have been utterly humiliated to be scared back like that. A dark shadow flashed past, a figure landing firmly on the sturdy tree trunk. Just as he was about to strike the somewhat terrified Orochimaru with his long sword, a mocking expression suddenly appeared on the opponent's face. Before Orochimaru could react with alarm, it was too late. Hidden in his sleeve, his hand had already formed a hand seal. Tiger, death, and non-death, tiger. Chakra circulated throughout his body, and in an instant, the panicked Orochimaru revealed a humorous smile, raising his hand briefly. Sign Jashu. With a hoarse, humorous smile, Orochimaru, one of the Sennin, felt a sudden surge of fear when 5 or 6 viper-like creatures suddenly shot out from his opponent's arm and attacked him. At that moment, the ninja openly displayed his terror. Orochimaru! One can fake it. After all, there's the transformation technique, but ninjutsu cannot be faked. The signature ninjutsu move directly caused this elite Chunin leader to lose all will to fight. He hastily threw away the shinobi katana in his hand, and then, with a powerful push of his legs, leapt backward. Hide! Upon seeing the subsequent jutsu technique, Orochimaru confirmed it without a doubt. At that moment, he had absolutely no desire to fight. All he could think about was escaping. But at that very moment, behind us, the sound of birdsong suddenly erupted. Endless birdsong. Chidori, whoosh! Fresh blood splattered everywhere. The Chunin let out a pain scream, and a flash of lightning, like a blur, swept past his body, severing one of his arms. Damn it, Uchiha Yoru, why haven't you mastered this jutsu yet? At this moment, Orochimaru's body revealed an expression of anger, a fiery aura similar to that of a young girl. Following a puff of white smoke, Anko's figure emerged, and immediately, the one-armed elite Chunin descending from the sky in the distance showed expressions of rage. You are not Orochimaru. At this moment, this elite Chunin realized he had been tricked. From the very beginning, the opponent had used Orochimaru's fearsome reputation to intimidate him. After a single Sign Jashu attack, anyone would have truly believed they had encountered Orochimaru, never imagining it was a lie. Captain! At this moment, the two students also rushed over, forming a 3-person battle formation. But on the tree trunk, Anko's angry face was revealed as she looked at Uchiha Yoru, who had fallen to the ground beside her. At this moment, the lightning in Uchiha Yoru's hand was still crackling and slowly dissipating. A Magatama stone spun in his eye socket, and he couldn't help but laugh awkwardly, saying, Anko, the opponent, is a taijutsu ninja. At the last moment, you dodged this fatal blow. Originally aiming for the opponent's back, it ended up hitting only the right arm. However, it wasn't entirely wrong. At the very least, an ordinary ninja would have their fighting ability greatly reduced after losing an arm, especially since they wouldn't be able to perform ninjutsu. As the lightning in his palm dissipated and he felt his chakra decrease by a third, Uchiha Yori stared down at his prey with a smile. 120,000 gold coins! Using the accelerated training of Chidori, this rank ninjutsu, he wasn't a genius, but he managed to create a genius through the use of gold coins. Although not yet fully proficient, he was already perfectly usable in battle. In an instant, Uchiha Yoru fired a barrage of shurikens from his hand, looking down at Kakuzu from above. As the shurikens flew towards him, the enraged Chunin, whose arm had been severed, shouted, "Quick, stop him!" He was originally an elite Chunin, but now that one of his arms has been severed, not only can he not use his ninjutsu, but his arm is also numb. He can only rely on his subordinates to buy time. Ding ding! In an instant, the black shurikens were deflected, but the next moment, a bald Chunin shouted in panic, "Get out of the way!" Just as the two thought about dodging, it was too late. The one-armed Chunin reacted swiftly, plunging deep into the air and leaping high. He then looked down in horror where each shuriken was clearly attached to a fine steel wire. In the dim light of the dark forest, it was difficult for an ordinary person to spot them. In the blink of an eye, Uchiha Yoru pulled on the tree trunk with both hands, and the shuriken that were flying out instantly began to bend under the force. In a moment, the two genin were directly bound together by the steel wire. At that moment, the Chunin elite, who had just leapt up, let out a roar, and his left hand, holding a kunai, shot directly downwards, clearly intending to sever the steel wire binding the two students. However, there was someone even faster than him. With their coordinated teamwork, Mitarashi Anko, standing beside Uchiha Yoriichi, quickly formed hand seals, Tishin Maoyin, fire release, dragon fire technique. Mitarashi Anko let out a soft cry, then suddenly took a deep breath. In an instant, a magnificent power manifested in her chest, and immediately afterwards, a towering dragon of fire shot out from her mouth, surging downwards with immense force. Ah! A heart-wrenching scream subsided, and in a brief moment, the flames consumed the two young genin, leaving the air thick with a nauseating stench. Falling to the ground, the elite Chunin's right arm still stained with fresh blood, his head covered in sweat, stared in terror at the situation that had unfolded in just a few seconds. Leaving him alone. He involuntarily swallowed nervously. You are Orochimaru's disciple, Mitarashi Anko. At this moment, the elite Chunin's face turned pale with fear as he stared at the two figures who had appeared. Clearly, with their coordinated teamwork and the particularly striking ninjutsu they displayed earlier, these female ninjas perfectly matched the intelligence he had gathered about Orochimaru's disciples. Sainjashu and Dragon Fire Technique are both Surank ninjutsu, and they don't consume much chakra. Mitarashi Anko watched as the trouble was resolved in the blink of an eye, leaving only a disabled person behind, a humorous smile appearing on her face. Not bad. I am Mitarashi Anko, a disciple of Sannin Orochimaru. Now, you'd better surrender and be bound. Meanwhile, the opponent, his forehead covered in sweat, looked towards another person. Upon seeing the red eyeballs in that person's eye sockets, he immediately gritted his teeth and said, "I didn't expect there to be another Uchiha ninja with a Sharingan." To cunning, one was an eye-opening opportunity for the Uchiha. The other was a Sannin disciple. Even if he confronted them head-on, he wasn't sure he could survive, let alone considering how clearly devious they were, with their elaborate scheme of one trap after another. Haha, ninjas make their living with their brains, especially intelligence. Seeing the other person gritting their teeth in anger, Uchiha Yoru now revealed a smile, clearly intending to infuriate them to death. However, what he said was true, unless you reach the later stages where you're incredibly powerful and resentful. Before that, being a ninja is a fragile profession with high skill, and even a single kunai can be fatal. In the early days, ninjas relied entirely on intelligence and calculation to overcome stronger opponents and outnumber them, rather than individually performing hand seals and unleashing jutsu upon encountering someone that was considered nonsense. Ho ho, gasping for breath, the opponent's expression suddenly changed, his body stiffening instantly. He thought about his escape plan, but then he immersed himself in hot water, feeling the changes in his body. He stared in disbelief at the two incredibly young Konoha genius ninjas before him, trembling as he said, "When did you release the poison?" He was spouting nonsense and secretly observing the escape route. But at this moment, his chakra was out of control, and a dizzying sensation arose in his brain. With his extensive experience, he knew this was poisoning. His consciousness began to spin, and at the same time, he thought of the young man using Chidori to cut off his arm. Only then could he have been poisoned. He then saw the young man and woman opposite him both smiling, and then he collapsed with a thud onto the soft grass. Konoha border. Teacher Orochimaru, the mission is complete. Inside his tent, Orochimaru wearily rubbed his eyebrows, looking at the various intelligence reports in his hands. After all, he was still the commander-in-chief of the front lines, especially now that the border was clearly in turmoil, which had increased his workload. And secretly, he also had to conduct various scientific experiments. He was truly a master of time management. At this moment, seeing his disciple Mitarashi Anko's adoring expression, and Uchiha Yoru beside her whose adoration was clearly feigned, Orochimaru looked up at the two of them and displayed his characteristic smile. If an enemy were to see this smile, they would surely be terrified. It must be said that Orochimaru's charismatic personality still possesses considerable appeal. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been such a strong contender for the position of fourth Hokage. Seeing Mitarashi Anko deliver the intelligence report, and noticing Uchiha Yoru casually shrugging his shoulders and gesturing for her to speak, Anko immediately revealed a smug smile, as if to say, "You're being sensible. Teacher Orochimaru, we've discovered 4 illegal ninjas this time. Of the 3 genin, 2 are dead, 1 is disabled, and the remaining genin has been taken to the interrogation department. This is the intelligence obtained by the interrogation department." As the commander-in-chief of the front lines, Orochimaru didn't have to personally handle every mission. For example, in missions like this, after capturing a person alive, they would hand them over to the interrogation department. After the interrogation, the department would determine the mission's outcome, and then they would hand it over. In this way, the so-called commander-in-chief only needs to observe the opponent's intentions or schemes, and there's absolutely no need to waste time on unfounded suspicions. Anko, with a haughty and arrogant demeanor, slowly recounted the mission and the results of this interrogation, while Orochimaru listened with utmost patience, as if he were a wise teacher. When Anko finished speaking, she displayed an arrogant demeanor, as if to say, "Come on, give me a compliment." "Haha, Anko, you're quite good, but this plan must have been devised by Night Lord." Orochimaru's sorrowful smile was met with disapproval from Anko. Instead of feeling repulsed, she couldn't help but glance at her teammate beside her, haughtily scoffing. Although she wanted to say that she could win even fighting alone, she knew that if the opponent wanted to escape, she couldn't stop them. And she certainly wouldn't be able to finish the battle so quickly and unharmed. "Haha, Anko, you did a great job." Orochimaru, with his characteristic hoarse voice and cheerful smile, first briefly encouraged his disciple, then turned his head to look at Uchiha Yoru beside him, revealing a profound smile. "Yujun, your talent in ninjutsu and swordsmanship far exceeds my expectations. It seems that you and Anko forming what's called a genius team is not an exaggeration at all." In response to Orochimaru's encouragement, Uchiha Yoru feigned an embarrassed smile, but inwardly muttered, "What genius? I carved this myself." It was clear that the fact he could successfully train in Chidori in such a short time made him worthy of the title of genius in Orochimaru's eyes. This was also part of Uchiha Yoru's plan. After all, he was now clinging to Orochimaru's coattails. If we're talking about who the most skilled teachers among the Hokage, it would definitely be Jiraiya and Orochimaru from the Sannin, but it's clear that Jiraiya is practically non-existent. While Orochimaru's teaching style is quite unique, he naturally had to showcase his talent so that his abilities could be exchanged for the greatest resources. "Teacher Orochimaru, you're too kind." At this moment, Uchiha Yoruichi, feigning embarrassment, smiled and said, while Anko, standing beside her, couldn't help but pout, "Who is Orochimaru?" "He's one of the Sannin," and he instantly sensed what Uchiha Yoru wanted to say. He couldn't help but turn his head and look at Anko with a hoarse smile. "Anko, since there are no missions coming up, you should focus on practicing the ninjutsu I'm teaching you." As expected, Anko, currently blindly devoted to her teacher Orochimaru, immediately nodded excitedly upon hearing him speak, saying, "Rest assured, teacher Orochimaru, Anko won't be a burden. Anko is clearly a genius too, otherwise how would she have caught Orochimaru's eye? Haha, Night Lord isn't wrong either, Anko. You can step back now. As Night Lord's teacher, it's time for me to teach you a few things. Anko was filled with excitement, but upon hearing what was said behind her, she immediately glared at Uchiha Yoro with dissatisfaction, her eyes revealing a warning, as if to say, Teacher Orochimaru is already very tired. You shouldn't bother him too much. Under Anko's warning gaze, Uchiha Yoro gave a wry smile and followed Anko out. Once the tent fell silent again, he saw Orochimaru's knowing smile as if to say, What do you represent the Uchiha in bringing this time? Seeing Orochimaru's expression, Uchiha Yoro took a deep breath. He knew this was his chance to prove himself. He wanted to seize the opportunity to quickly rise to power before Orochimaru betrayed him and fled, otherwise he wouldn't have another chance. Teacher Orochimaru, this is the Uchiha clan providing funding for you. Uchiha Yoro slowly took a scroll from his chest, and after breaking the seal, a dazzling golden light instantly appeared before their eyes. Upon seeing this, Orochimaru's eyes clearly flashed with surprise. The golden bricks, piled up into a small mountain of golden bricks, were then sealed once again inside the scroll, and Uchiha Yoro respectfully presented the scroll. Seeing this scene, Orochimaru's hoarse laughter clearly revealed a sense of joy. Although he was a scientist, research was a bottomless pit. Once all the resources were exhausted, there was no end. It was clearly to his liking, and when Uchiha Yoro heard Orochimaru's name, he clearly revealed a relieved and joyful laugh. Immediately breathing a sigh of relief inwardly, his prediction had indeed been correct. Now that Konoha is experiencing the Nine-Tails Rebellion and its borders are unstable, Danzo, who is cooperating with Orochimaru, is determined to reduce the resources he provides by half, especially since Orochimaru is a strong competitor for the 5th Hokage's position. If Danzo continues to provide assistance to Orochimaru under these circumstances, it would be truly absurd. At this point, Orochimaru must be short of money, short of all kinds of resources. Haha, it seems Night Lord has quite a grand scheme in mind. Orochimaru licked his lips as he looked at the money in his hand, a smile appearing on his face. He certainly needed the money, and the Uchiha clan seemed to be a good option. Teacher, the Uchiha clan is fully assisting the 5th Hokage, Teacher Orochimaru. Uchiha Yoro revealed a cheerful expression, implying that since you are the 5th Hokage, our Uchiha clan is willing to dedicate all our strength, especially emphasizing the word teacher. Orochimaru sensed a hidden meaning in those words and immediately broke into a smile. Teacher Orochimaru, the Uchiha clan knows that a teacher's research in ninjutsu requires a large amount of funding. This is just the initial funding. The Uchiha clan will continue to provide it in the future. If Teacher Orochimaru needs any research materials, the Uchiha clan will do everything in its power to provide them. At this moment, Uchiha Yoro directly expressed his stance, and his expression became even more resolute. Within the tent, Orochimaru's unique, hoarse laughter echoed, a laugh that now, to Uchiha Yoro's ears, held no trace of darkness or terror. Instead, it was filled with a pleasant sound. Vomiting. Following that, the sound of dry retching echoed through the tent. Orochimaru spat out a snake-like object covered in saliva, and then the snake retched again, spitting out a wet, mucus-covered scroll. Upon seeing the scroll, Uchiha Yoro's face flushed slightly, revealing a surge of excitement. Orochimaru, after retracting his serpent, licked the corner of his mouth and chuckled, saying, Yoro, the teacher, has high hopes for your talent. The scroll unfolded, revealing names one by one. He saw Orochimaru's name, and the last name was Mitarashi Anko. Ryuchi Cave Summoning Beast Scroll. At that moment, Uchiha Yoro took a deep breath, suppressing his excitement, and respectfully said, Yes. Teacher Orochimaru, Uchiha Yoro will not let you down. Or, to put it another way, the Uchiha clan won't be disappointed, because ultimately, the relationship between the two sides is more of a political one. For Orochimaru, having the financial backing of Konoha's #1 wealthy family was truly like receiving warmth on a snowy day. It completely allowed his research lab, which had been struggling with financial problems, to resume normal operations. However, the way Uchiha Yoro was described by the teacher wasn't the same. Previously, the teacher was called teacher because she was in the same squad as Anko, and Orochimaru was considered the team's mentor. Plus, he wanted to lick her feet, so naturally, he addressed her as teacher. But this time, the teacher-student relationship was one of mutual benefit in politics. Before Orochimaru betrayed and fled, if you wanted to thrive in Konoha, you needed political maneuvering. Kunai directly cut his finger, then directly wrote his name on the summoning beast scroll, and finally stamped his handprint on it, causing Orochimaru to immediately break into a smile. Yoru, you seem very intelligent. You know how to make the most of your strengths. Orochimaru lowered his shrewd gaze, seemingly revealing an all-seeing look, while Uchiha Yoru, raising his head without concealment, respectfully said with a smile, "Teacher Orochimaru, the Uchiha clan is willing to provide all logistical support. Is this the most important thing? The meaning is very clear. What your teacher Orochimaru urgently needs right now is a large amount of funding for research. As for who it is, does that matter? Even if Orochimaru knew some of the situation, you've achieved what you needed, and the rest is simply a matter for the Uchiha clan." Upon hearing these words, Orochimaru's expression brightened. He was very curious about this disciple's abilities. Not only was his talent in ninjutsu quite good, but his mind seemed to have transcended the simple mind of a ninja, becoming the political acumen of a powerful clan. "So, my disciple, will the elite Uchiha on the front lines obey your command or orders? For Orochimaru, who it is doesn't matter. What matters is the benefit he needs." Upon hearing this, Uchiha Yoru was secretly startled. It seemed Orochimaru had indeed received some information, such as the large amount of financial funding and the mission assigned by the clan to fully assist the Uchiha clan's genius, Uchiha Itachi, in becoming Orochimaru's disciple. Not bad. Uchiha Yoru is using the clan's resources to pave the way for himself. Teacher Orochimaru, rest assured, the Uchiha clan is willing to accept your orders. At this moment, Uchiha Yoru respectfully expressed his loyalty to his clan, secretly muttering to himself, "After all, as long as I'm a member of the Uchiha clan and have joined Orochimaru's tutelage, it doesn't really matter who it is. Raw rice has been cooked into rice for this nearly 5-year-old Uchiha Itachi. There is no hope." In the original story, the Uchiha clan would have had no way to connect with Orochimaru, and naturally, they couldn't have achieved their current cooperative relationship. This time, it was only by leveraging his knowledge of the wood-release ninja Yamato that he managed to establish the connection. Although it was a bit of a stretch, that's no longer important. What matters is his success. Looking at Uchiha Yoru, Orochimaru chuckled hoarsely. He didn't want to get involved in the deceit and power struggles within the great clans, nor did he want to bother with such matters. As long as he got what he wanted, that was enough. Haha, this part of the research scroll is quite troublesome for the Uchiha elite. Remember to find Anko when you get back. She teach you some snake-type ninjutsu. At that moment, Orochimaru casually handed over a scroll. Upon receiving it, Uchiha Yoru immediately broke into a smile. Success! He could now be considered a true disciple of Orochimaru, and he could even take a cut of the sheep's wool from his own clan. Teacher Orochimaru, rest assured, I'll go inform Shisui right away. After saying that, Uchiha Yoru excitedly took his leave. At this point, Orochimaru wasn't yet obsessed with the Sharingan. He was merely interested in immortality, so he was still quite safe. More importantly, he only has one Tamo. If the Uchiha clan really wanted to study his physical form, they would need 3 Tamo, not to mention his value. From the original story, it's clear that Orochimaru, despite being a major boss in the early stages, possesses charisma and a forgiving nature. As long as you have value, even if you have flaws, it doesn't matter. His tolerance is immense. The most typical example is Uchiha Sasuke. His words were very impolite, but Orochimaru didn't get angry. As long as you still have value, everything else is insignificant. Now that he has successfully become Orochimaru's disciple, one reason is that the Uchiha clan has pledged allegiance, and another is his talent. Although this talent of his is temporarily acquired through inscription, who else would know about it? Upon returning to the Uchiha encampment, Shisui was still there. Yes, big brother. When Shisui saw the person who had arrived, a smile immediately appeared on his face. Although he was stronger than Uchiha Yoru in terms of power, he was far inferior in other aspects, especially when it came to the future of the Uchiha clan. In his confusion, he finally saw the light of a beacon. Approaching Uchiha Yoru, a hesitant and troubled expression appeared on his face. Following that, he gestured to the surroundings, and sure enough, the next moment Uchiha Shisui directly said in a low voice, "Everyone, be on alert." As expected, a faint rustling sound of grass could be heard around the perimeter of the encampment. The Uchiha clan's situation was very embarrassing, and it was now affecting the front lines, as could be seen from the somewhat strange appearance of the encampment's perimeter. The Uchiha clan was isolated. Yes, big brother, the perimeter has been properly secured, and there's a barrier in place, so there's nothing to worry about. At this moment, seeing that all the arrangements were complete, Shisui couldn't help but frown and look at Uchiha Yoru with a suspicious expression. "Brother Yoru, what's wrong?" Uchiha Yoru merely gave a wry smile, shook his head, and sighed, saying, "Shisui, the clan's mission is to wait for the clan head's son, Uchiha Itachi, to arrive. With Uchiha Itachi's talent and my secret investigations, we'll see if he can become Orochimaru's disciple." Upon hearing Uchiha Yoru's words, Shisui immediately frowned. He naturally knew about this, but why was it being said at this particular time? "Brother, have you encountered some difficult problem?" At this moment, the honest Uchiha Shisui was filled with worrying. After all, the Uchiha clan was in a very difficult situation now. Having finally secured a spot on the path to becoming the 5th Hokage, they absolutely could not give up. Seeing Shisui's worried face, Uchiha Nightheart sighed inwardly. "Shisui, I'm doing all this for the clan, for the Uchiha. Shisui, do you remember what I told you? Teacher Orochimaru, on the surface, is the border commander-in-chief, but secretly he's also in charge of some kind of secret research." At this moment, Uchiha Yoru hesitated for a moment, then looked up at Shisui and spoke the words in his heart. Yes, he had already thought about it hundreds of times and finally summarized it. Uchiha Shisui, upon hearing this, nodded solemnly, his face showing even more admiration. "You've told me all this. Has something happened?" Because Konoha is currently in turmoil, Professor Orochimaru's research has stalled due to financial shortages. The funds provided by the clan can now help supplement Professor Orochimaru's research. But, at this moment, Uchiha Yoru felt awkward and a little embarrassed. Under Uchiha Shisui's questioning gaze, he sighed helplessly and said, "Teacher Orochimaru made me sign the Ryuchi Cave Kuchioshi scroll." Regarding Uchiha Itachi's matter, the teacher said that Konoha is about to be shaken, and he has a confidential mission, so he can allow Uchiha Itachi to adapt to life on the front lines for a period of time. There was no refusal, but no agreement either. In short, Orochimaru was too busy right now. Not only was he the commander-in-chief of the border, but he also had to handle confidential missions in the shadows. He didn't have time for that. He said he would come back later to see what Uchiha Itachi's talent was like when he had the time. Uchiha Yoru's meaning was exactly that, but after hearing it, Uchiha Shisui showed a look of shock, followed by ecstatic joy. "The Ryuchi Cave Kuchioshi scroll, big brother. You become a disciple of Lord Orochimaru." In his agitation, Uchiha Shisui clearly revealed an expression of disbelief. One must remember that this was one of the Sennin, and moreover, a political investor. Yes, big brother, what the Uchiha clan needs right now is someone to become Orochimaru's disciple. He could be Itachi or someone else, but as long as he's from the Uchiha clan, that's fine. Uchiha Shisui was very excited. He now truly saw his clan and village restored to a better tomorrow. Uchiha Yoru sighed, "I just hope the clan head won't be disappointed." Upon hearing this, Uchiha Shisui's expression immediately brightened, and he nodded firmly, saying, "Yes, big brother, rest assured. When the clan head learns that you have become Orochimaru's disciple, he will not only not be disappointed, but will be delighted." Looking at it, Uchiha Shisui is truly a genius who fought for the Uchiha clan. Seeing this, Uchiha Yoru nodded excitedly, then immediately revealed his long-planned true purpose, the very reason he had been plotting for so long. "Well, even though we can continue research now, we're still severely short of funds. The teacher said the village suffered losses due to the Ninetales tremors, and there are also border disturbances. Konoha basically can't come up with much money right now. The family's financial support can only last for a month at most. First, let's talk about the Ninetales rebellion that caused the upheaval. Although this wasn't actually a conspiracy by the Uchiha clan, suspicion had already been leveled against them. Upon hearing these words, Uchiha Shisui's face showed a hint of embarrassment. Although this was clearly not something the Uchiha clan had done, there was nothing they could do about it now. After hearing the rest of the explanation, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Lord Orochimaru doesn't harbor any suspicion or even hatred towards the Uchiha clan, that's already a great stroke of luck, isn't it? It's just a matter of research falling into a predicament, easy to say. Although it wasn't the Uchiha clan who caused this, if they didn't do something, and Orochimaru became jealous of the Uchiha clan because of it, they would be at a disadvantage. Brother, rest assured, I will report this matter to the family, and the family will continuously provide the necessary funds. At this moment, Shisui was secretly fortunate. While other issues were truly a headache for the Uchiha clan, finances were the easiest for them. Ninjutsu is an internal family matter, and there might still be some reluctance to part with it, but when it comes to finances, for powerful families, especially the Uchiha clan, the most powerful clan in the ninja world, what is it? It's just material possessions, something that can't be earned back. As expected, seeing Shisui's reaction, Uchiha Yoro revealed a joyful smile. Shisui, this way Teacher Orochimaru can continue to complete the village's secret mission. Moreover, with such great help from the clan this time, when Teacher Orochimaru becomes the 5th Hokage, he will definitely not forget us, Uchiha. Indeed, this is what the Uchiha need most right now. They lack nothing in terms of money or ninjutsu. What they lack most is to once again be on the same side as Konoha, to once again return to the center of Konoha's power. At this moment, Uchiha Yoro secretly narrowed his eyes. Today, he gave Orochimaru, the teacher, half of the funds and then checked his own remaining balance. Gold coins, 1.53 million gold coins. Looking at the balance sheet, Uchiha Yoro saw Shisui's smiling face, and immediately he also started to feel happy. Amazing, amazing! Missions are not only exhausting, but they also take up so much time, and you don't even earn any money. This is incredibly fast at plucking goat hair. Just this one stroke alone is worth over 1.5 million gold coins. Converted to Vietnamese currency, this is already the full reward for an S-rank mission. Remember, the village always takes a cut of the reward money from any mission. S-rank missions, similarly, are completed by elite Jonin teams. Even without a team, they are extremely perilous and often require a very long time, with various forms of depletion during the mission. The most important thing is the S-rank mission. He has no ability to complete it. Now, it's great, plucking the sheep's wool from the clan, one S-rank mission at a time. Tisk TSK, he really wishes Orochimaru hadn't betrayed and fled so hastily, so he could pluck more sheep's wool. It wouldn't take long, just 2 or 3 years, relying on the inscription system, and he could absolutely become an elite Jonin and even an elite member of the Uchiha clan. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yoro couldn't help but murmur to himself, for the clan, for the Uchiha. That's right, Shisui. At this moment, Uchiha Yoriichi cautiously glanced around, then took out a mission scroll and said in a low voice, "This is a confidential village mission. The border is in turmoil, Root cannot deploy its elite forces, and Instructor Orochimaru urgently needs to complete the village mission. Some missions that cannot be seen by others will likely require the elite of our Uchiha clan to complete." The scroll slowly unfolded, and in an instant, a look of shock flashed in Uchiha Shisui's eyes. He quickly composed himself, frowning as he intently examined the mission scroll. "Yes, big brother, this?" Uchiha Yoro nodded firmly and said, "Not bad, just as you saw. Shisui, this is the material Orochimaru-sensei needs for his research, human bodies for testing." And with the border region in turmoil, many spies from various countries and even ninjas from smaller nations are investigating the situation. These would be perfect materials for testing. Seeing Uchiha Shisui openly and shamelessly engaging in this act with his elder brother Uchiha, he was shocked. This? Weren't human test subjects supposed to be sealed off?